Well, look at that. We brought back the mug intro. How about that? For Bootleg Day 2022. I cannot believe we've been doing this for 2 years already, bud.
That's the crazy part is we were recording last week and we were doing a content piece and it was our third time through it and it was like the third volume of whatever and I was like, "Wait a minute. Oh yeah, we did it. It was one of the first things we did when we launched and we did it last year and now we're doing it again this year." And yeah, that time flies when you're having fun and making cool shit with your friends, that's for sure.
Yeah, so it's I'm trying to think of anything that I've ever done for 2 years consistently. Like even most jobs that I've had, I didn't do for 2 years consistently.
Oh man.
Kind of
Um
wild.
yeah, it's I mean, we've had a ton of fun doing this and just hey to everybody that's here, hey to everybody that can't be here and watches it later. Um, if it wasn't for all of you, there wouldn't be this. Like, this is because of and for all of you. Like, we would be doing it anyways. We'd be sending DMs back and forth in the middle of the night about 6th round wide receivers. That's what we do. But it's the it's the interaction. It's the fact that you all get enjoyment out of it and have a ton of great ideas and have a ton of fun with it. And that's what Bootleg is. It's the community. It's not the work we do. We were doing the work before. Now we do the work together, and everybody gets to enjoy it. And that, to me, that's what Bootleg is.
And I think it's getting a little bit easier too, like as time goes on, because we kind of figure out how we mess up and how to make things better and how to do things more efficiently. And in my case, maybe getting editor was a good idea because
Hey, man.
made it so I only have to work 50 hours a week and not 60. So as time goes on, I think the arrow is only pointing up because we're just every single show we put out, I think is going to be 1% better than the last one, and that's kind of the goal at the end of the day. Just get 1% better every single show, and eventually we make something that won't suck.
Yeah, I was gonna say we figure it out because we started out making a lot of mistakes, and we could get sort of 4 or 5% better every show in the beginning. It was pretty easy because we're just, hey, let's not do that thing that was terrible again. Shout out to Cal. Happy Bootleg Day to you too. Garbage plates and Jameson. That sounds it sounds both like the best thing in the world and possibly the worst idea in the world. Right
I've
now,
never
it's the
had a
best thing.
garbage plate, by the way.
Oh, they're so good. We're gonna have to do the upstate New York tour and take you through Rochester just to get garbage plates. But
Is that
um,
do they do that in Buffalo too, or is that like
no,
just
it's a
Rochester?
Rochester thing. There's other great food in Buffalo. We'll stop there too for sure. Say hi to the fam and eat some great food. But no, garbage plates are a Rochester thing, largely a Rochester college town thing. And not to say it's the only good food in Rochester. There's other really good stuff. There's a great barbecue place in Rochester. So shout out to you, Kel. Appreciate that. Um, what's my favorite Bears play and why is it Keith Trailer's 70-yard pick? Rumbling, bumbling, stumbling, Keith Trailer. That was if you've ever seen a guy run out of gas, like literally, that was it. Yeah, there's a lot of great Bears plays, but that one was a lot of fun.
Favorite Bears play? God, the Walter run. Well, actually, I should probably be
Well,
more
I was
specific.
gonna say, can you be more specific?
The scissor kick run that he had,
Yeah,
just
little
because it
pony
was.
step. I called
Yeah,
it the
yeah,
pony
yeah, yeah.
step.
That's probably just because the first time we ever saw a human move like that. Um,
Um,
and to see what is my best worst combine drill? Does Wonderlick count?
no, not anymore. It's gone.
Oh, they got rid of the Wonderlick?
Yeah, no wonder like this year.
Oh, good. It's kind of useless.
Yeah,
I
no, it's
might be
not.
okay at it, but it's probably useless for football.
If you're okay at it, that might correlate to it
Yeah,
being useless
exactly.
at football.
Exactly. It tells you nothing.
Uh,
Best combine drill. Oh man, that's tough.
yeah, um I really like the W drills for the defensive backs because it's not so much about whether or not they catch the ball. It's about them reacting to the coach to tell them. For those of you that don't know what it is, they do a little backpedal drill, and the coach tells them to go one way or another, and they either have to break forward at an angle or off to one side at a 90, depending on the drill. And I've spotted at least 4 or 5 guys in the last 2 or 3 years just in that drill that I had not watched yet. Jordan Fuller was one of them, and L'Jarius Sneed was one of them. And I was like, man, that guy's got good hips. Like, look at his feet. Like, he moves right. And then I went back and watched the tape before the draft and was like, no, those guys are going to be something. And Fuller ends up wearing the green dot for the world champion Rams. And L'Jarius Sneed, when he's healthy, has vastly outplayed his draft slot. So I love that drill because, you just really looking at the way they move. And it's just them. All the noise of the rest of the tape is gone, and they have to react and do a football move. We say football move in terms of a catch, but they have to do a football move, and you can really see stiffness comes out really quickly. Like, oh, that guy can't turn. He's going to be a guy that's only good going forward, as opposed to, oh, that guy can swivel in a hurry. So I like that one.
That's a drill that I definitely could not do myself. If I was going to pick out a drill that I could, I think, potentially be functional at, probably the gauntlet for receivers, just because I grew up playing baseball for 12 years, so catching shit on the run is not super difficult for me. Everything else very difficult for me, but the actual catching part of the game, I think I could do. So yeah, I'll say gauntlet just because I might not be completely embarrassed, only partially embarrassed when I did it. But
there was an idea floating around draft Twitter about 3 weeks ago that draft Twitter gets together and does a draft Twitter combine. I was like, for the comedy value alone, yes. Will I be participating? No, because I can't run anymore. But man, it would be awesome. I remember the TDN guys got together and ran the 40.
Who do you think is the most athletic guy in draft Twitter?
Ooh, most athletic guy in draft Twitter. That's a great question. I mean, I was thinking about Brad Kelly wouldn't be terrible. He's still coaching, so at least he's out on the field. Ted Wynn's in great shape. I don't know how his coordination level is, but he's in great shape. So he's going to do really well at the running drills. It's funny. I immediately think of all the guys on the other end of the spectrum. Lori Fitz used to play. So,
she would probably smoke some people.
She would embarrass the vast majority of people. So it'd be a fun event. If
Lori versus me in several drills would be actual comedy. I would do it to raise money for something.
Yes. Yes, we should arrange that.
What's our take on Aiden versus Kayvon debate? Who do you think should go first? Depends. What team are we picking for?
Yeah, that's the thing. It's landing spot for those guys. They're not the same player. They're both really good. That's my take, is they're both really good. And I think they're both going to be really successful, but they don't do the same things the same ways.
Yeah. And I would say it's tough to do comps. If you want somebody who's more like Brian Burns, I would say Kayvon Thibodeau. If you want someone who's more like pretty much any Packers outside linebackers, Darius Smith, Rashawn Gary, both monsters in their own right, I would say that's more Aiden Hutchinson. And he's even said, once they started standing him up when Mike McDonald went to Michigan and they kind of used the Raven system, which Za'Darius used to play in, as a stand-up rusher, he actually felt more comfortable. And I think we saw that a lot as a pass rusher. He felt more comfortable standing up. So any team that uses big outside linebackers, not little outside linebackers that are just speed rushers, but big dudes that can set the edge and rush with power and all that kind of stuff, Aiden, I think, works for them. And then Thibodeau, I kind of want his hand in the dirt where he's just exploding and using that, natural speed and bend in a 4-down front, or the closest thing we'll get to a 4-down front these days. So in terms of teams in the top 5 to 6 that fit that mold, I kind of feel like Aiden might go first just because of the teams that are up there. But you could argue for any one of them having the better career. Just vibing for $5. Thank you, sir. Really appreciate it. Happy Bootleg Day. Autumn, welcome back. Another $5 donation. If you were going to do a Bengals hoodie, what do you think it would be? There's so many plays that went against them, but I can't think of one for us. Jamar Chase's 72-yard catch and run touchdown, probably, right? That's the one that jumps out to me. Like the Jamar Chase touchdown was ridiculous. Or honestly, any Jamar Chase touchdown, because they're all ridiculous.
Yeah, pick the one you like.
Let's see. Was there a crazy throw that Joe made in the playoffs? Probably, right?
There are several, like the ones where he should have been absolutely turned into fine pink mist and ended up with even a 10 or 15-yard gain. There were a bunch of those, and those aren't natural. They might not show up on the Hoodie grade just because of the line/dots, but no, his ability to do that behind what was not charitably a great offensive line is not typical. There are guys that can escape, but guys that can escape, keep their eyes up and make plays like that are very rare. And Joe's right up near the top of that list.
If they protected him for like another half second and he hit Jamar Chase on that game winner in the Super Bowl, that would have been the easy answer. But
yeah. But
they'll fix it. They'll fix it. Maybe, hopefully, praying to God, they'll fix it. Kel for $5. What are your thoughts on a hoodie for the Bills? Notable plays I can think of are a litany of pain. Man, Bengals and Bills fans.
I know.
Locked up.
Wide right. It's just like
Miracle, this. Hail Mary. I kind of like all those, like spear concepts and deep crosser plays that they were calling with Dable. That was like Josh Allen's bread and butter. The hurdle over Anthony Barr, I think, would be fun from Allen's rookie year. Teron Johnson's pick in the playoffs a couple years ago for their first.
Have you done a defensive play for a hoodie?
Not yet. I'm working on a couple.
Oh, okay.
But they're not really like Tracy Porter's pick in the Super Bowl is one that I'm working on. The hard part is like drawing it in a way that makes sense.
Yeah, that's a challenge. I hadn't thought about that. No, for Bills, I would go all like old school plays, and I would go deep cuts, and nobody would buy it. So don't ask me. I would do like,
dude, you have some of the requests that I'm doing for the promo. I will only sell one of them, and it's to these people, and that's perfectly fine with me, just because I fucking love doing deep cut plays that nobody knows. Yeah. But we're talking like, touchdowns from like 1967. It's like I'm literally
Electric Company stuff.
I'm putting on the store for like one guy's father, where this is like his favorite play, and like I'm still working on the design. And I know I will never sell another one of these.
You should just monogram it. You should just put like Jack on the front or whatever his dad's name is, because he's the only one that's going to buy it.
But that's what I love about it, is he's going to be the only person on earth with that hoodie.
Oh no, it'd be super cool. But no, I would be picking like Eric Mold's plays and Thurman Thomas runs, and yeah.
And I honestly think one of my best-selling hoodies is going to be the 3rd and 9 sneak when I finally come out with that for the Giants. Telling you, the thing's going to sell like hotcakes.
Well, they got nothing else. I mean, to be fair, they're like,
for it.
That's the one.
No, I polled Giants fans, and I was like, what do you want between helmet catch, Manningham catch, and that one? And that one won. Like, Giants fans are obsessed with that play.
It's more recent.
Full Metal Savage for $10. Thank you, bud. Brett, when you watch Euphoria, were you analyzing Nate's QB play? Okay, I actually did notice this. They actually taught him how to throw. There's a lot of shows where like mechanically like they're just
like have at it.
No, he actually looks semi-believable for a high school kid, Obviously, I mean, he looks 35. He's not a high school kid, but in terms of like how high school kids look playing football, I was like, you know what? All right, they brought in a coach to like teach him how to look semi-functional.
By the way, this is the most bootleg thing ever. Like, hey, analyze TV QB play, would you? We're like, yeah, sure. Love to.
I love that he rewound it to look at release and footwork just to see.
What have you two done to me? Yeah, it's our fault. We full responsibility there. Absolutely 100%.
What's funny is I did the same thing too. Is I literally, and
of course you did.
Because HBO, when you rewind it, it doesn't have like a 10-second rewind. It has a minute rewind, and I did it twice. My wife's like, "Okay, I'm sick of seeing this scene. I was like, I need to look.
Good for her. No, the only possibly more bootleg thing would be me betting on the fact that you did that and winning money.
Which, speaking of, I was looking at futures for draft picks.
Oh,
I wanted to see what I could bet on.
Oh my God. I looked a month ago. I looked just on this topic. I looked a month ago and I was like, nope. Oh man, are you kidding? Like, I should just drop $100. And as a rule, I pretty much don't. But I was like, come on. And we know a place in Vegas that'll take your money. They don't care.
Who do you think I texted?
I know who you texted. And
I asked them, I was like, I need you to put this up on the board. And they're like,
what?
well, we don't do that till March once we know more. And I was like, well, that doesn't help me.
Yeah, I could make the money now. You're telling me that you think Christian Watson is going to be below the third? I'll take that all day long right now. And in March, it's not going to make any sense. Nobody would put it up.
I asked him, I gave him a speculative bet that I wanted to put in, a parlay. Just for 3 guys. And I was like, okay, what theoretically, what are the odds that you're giving me?
What would you give me? Yeah.
$1,000 bet, pay out $1.25 million. Which it's not a lock, but I feel good about it.
Yeah. Well, we'll see how good we feel about it, but yeah.
Eric Galco, our buddy Eric. How you doing?
Happy bootleg to you, sir.
By the way, they're not taking the bet. I think they
yeah, well, they're
not opening it up till March.
Odds.
Yeah. Who's the best slot wide receiver in the draft, and why is it Kyle Phillips?
It's hard to argue
is
that
there,
point.
Is there a better one than Kyle? Well, stereotypical slot receiver. Some people are going to look at like Drake London and say, well, big slot.
Yeah, power slot, I would say different thing, but I'm on the Calvin Austin bandwagon. Like that guy, he's going to do things to people. And as much as we love Kyle, and we do, we got to interview him at the Shrine Bowl. We got to watch him dominate 4 straight practices at the Shrine Bowl and the game. He's going to be great. And he is prototypical or traditional. Calvin Austin's a different thing entirely, but he's really small. He's going to run super fast. He's a track athlete. So he's going to be one of those guys up there with Barnes that's probably going to run one of the top 40s because he only weighs like 162 pounds or something.
That's actually why I think I would still take Phillips because I was actually watching Calvin Austin last night because I was doing cut-ups for a podcast that we're putting out pretty soon here. And Kyle Phillips is a blocker. Way different than Calvin Austin is a blocker.
100%.
So if you're trying to run out of 11 personnel, I still want Phillips on the field over Austin.
100%.
I feel a little bit better about my run game that way. In terms of like pure receiving talents, Austin by a smidge. But in terms of overall football package, I still might go Phillips.
No, overall football package, I'm with you there. Austin can't hold anything to him as a blocker. Emery Hunt was on, I think it was CBS yesterday, and he said he's built like a fun-sized Twix.
He's not wrong.
He's not. I was like, that's a perfect description of Calvin Austin.
But the dude gets open, man.
He's very tough to get hands on, and he's going to have, I think, more bigger plays. If you want, it's kind of the average production curve. If you want a really spiky average production curve, Calvin Austin. If you want a very consistent round, always making plays production curve, Kyle Phillips.
I think it's just one of those where it's like, all right, 3rd and 7, you miss the playoffs. If you don't win right here, right now, who are you taking? It's hard for me to say anybody in this class.
Yeah.
But him.
Yeah.
Man, we got a lot of questions. Oh, man. I was not anticipating this. Jack Hunter. Welcome back, Jack. Pounds, euros. I mess this up every time. Pounds. Right? Pounds.
You got it. You're getting it. You got to get it by next, February or whenever they're going to play.
Whenever we're going to Germany.
Yeah. Whenever they play that game.
Congrats on the 2 years, gents. Thank you, Jack. Really enjoy the shows and look forward to them continuing. One question. Do you like De'Aaron King as a gadget player? Ooh, to the Chargers specifically.
Yeah, he's a Chargers fan. So
I wouldn't hate that, actually.
I wouldn't hate it. I have hesitation, as you can hear in my voice. Things may change, but right now, De'Aaron King wants to be a quarterback.
Yeah,
like he wants it really badly, and good on him. I'm all for guys believing in themselves and saying, no, this is what I'm going to be happy doing. Could he be a good gadget player? Yeah, physically, absolutely, he could be. But just like anything in the NFL, you're not going to be good at it if you don't want it. There's just too many other dudes that are really high level athletes that you have to compete against. And if you're kind of half-hearted about whatever it is you're doing, it's not going to be great. So if he changes his mind and says, hey, this is my path and I want to take it and I want to be in the NFL, which I think is the way most teams are probably going to view him, yeah, absolutely, he could do it. Is that a reality like right now? I'm not sure that is.
It's who's the Kentucky kid that got drafted?
Oh, the one that went to Vegas and then went to Miami. Like
I think
before
it's the same. It's the same kind of discussion we had about him when he was coming out. God, I wish I could remember his name. He was really fun in Kentucky. And the thing is, when he went to the Raiders, they did that a little bit too early in terms of when they pulled the trigger on that pick. But I still think the same discussion applies. Yes.
Thanks, chat. I appreciate that.
They were quick with it. The same discussion applies of like, okay, well, he could play receiver for us. You know, he could be a wildcat quarterback. We want to do some double pass stuff, but it's like, how high do you take somebody like that? And it's probably mid to late day 3. Not saying it won't happen, but if he's going to go for that kind of role, it would probably be around that range is my guess. Joshua for £5. Thank you, Josh. What do you think is a bigger need for New England? True wide receiver 1 or an athletic run stuffing linebacker? Wide receiver 1. Got to help out Mac Jones.
Yeah, and run stuffing linebackers you can get later. Like you can get 2 down linebackers in the 4th, the 5th, the 6th. There's people there in this draft where you're going to be able, especially New England, they don't really care about pedigree. They want a very specific skill set, and it's not a skill set that's desired by as much of the league. So they're picking from a wider pool of guys that would work in New England and might not work somewhere else because of what they ask them to do. Whereas a true number 1, like alpha, what I call an alpha wide receiver, everybody wants those and they're going to go super high. You're going to have to get them in basically the first. So I would go same way. Alpha 1 for sure.
The question is, which one's going to be left for New England at their pick?
Yeah, but I still wouldn't. Linebacker isn't my pivot there. I'm like wide receiver up here, and then 4 or 5 rounds later, like go get the linebacker you want. So they might get a guy that leaks through. I don't know whether I don't know all of New England's picks yet. I haven't memorized all the team's picks to be completely transparent. But if they've got a pick in the 2nd, there might be somebody that leaks down that they like. But again, you're going to be, even at that point, you're going to be taking a wide receiver with a couple of limitations because the true I can do anything as the focus of a pass game in the NFL guys are going to be off the board by then.
And even if, let's just use a scenario where, Bill Belichick falls in love with Leo Chanel and they take him high, or insert any of the crazy linebackers in this class because there's a ton of them, or they trade down and then take Muma as their first pick or whatever. The amount of like really good receiving talent, which just look at the All-Star circuit, Shrine Bowl and Senior Bowl rosters. There's a million of them. And that's just the seniors. That's not even counting the underclassmen. Day 2 they're going to be so full of receivers. Like unless you have an absolute badass surefire number 1 that you're targeting, at which point maybe they would consider trading up. It's like Garrett Wilson gets within 7 picks of them and they're like, screw it, we'll trade up. If that doesn't happen, you might as well trade down and then just shotgun it in day 2 because there's a million dudes in this class. Let's see. Nick for $5. Happy Bootleg Day. Happy Bootleg Day. What are your thoughts on Bears hirings and what do you think will happen with Rodgers and Adams? Well, Rodgers and Adams apparently want like $80 million, which is not possible. At all.
Here's the thing about Rodgers and Adams wanting that much money for folks that don't follow the Packers financials, and I'll certainly give you a pass if you don't. If you were to give Rodgers and Adams that kind of money with Bakhtiari and Jair Alexander, those 4 guys would be $120 million a year.
It's not
4 guys.
It's
$120 million a year out of what is it, 220 this year is a cap, 218, something like that. So you're talking about 120 of 220 roughly to 4 guys.
It would be so colossally stupid for the Packers to do that. It's not saying that Rodgers isn't like an all-time great quarterback talent. He is. He's still at the top of his game. It's not saying that Devontae Adams is one of the best receivers of his generation. He is still at the top of his game. They will lose so many other pieces on their roster because of that, that what's the point, you know? And I think there was a stat where there hasn't been a quarterback to win a Super Bowl, since the 2011 CBA when things were changed. There has not been a quarterback to win the Super Bowl that was in top 12 in cap hit. So you want to take a 15% raise over Patrick Mahomes, and you're already struggling to get over the hump, and you're already struggling to maintain depth on that roster because of how much you cost. It would just not be smart for the Packers to do it. I almost feel like this is a conspiracy theory that he threw out that number because he knows they can't pay him that, and Devontae threw out that number because he knows they can't pay him that, and they would rather go somewhere else, but they want it for the
to
sake
be the Packers'
of,
fault.
It's not even that. I think if anything, it's more sparing the Packers, because then if it becomes an issue of like, well, we couldn't afford them, so we had to let them walk.
Yeah.
It's easier for the Packers brass to handle that from a messaging standpoint. And I do think that Rodgers and Adams still do care about the Packers. I think they're almost doing them a solid and saying, this is the numbers we're putting out there so that you can sell it to the fans of, we can't afford them, sorry, rather than just leaving when there's competitive offers on the table and then forcing the Packers brass to sell it to the fans and, well, we just let them walk away. Again, total conspiracy theory, but I almost feel like that's Rodgers and Adams helping the Packers messaging wise by literally setting the table a month in advance of free agency of like, we're probably going to leave.
I think it's more agents going, we're going to start here. We know we're going to get this. So we're just going to say,
but the Broncos can't afford that either though. So
they know that. And the agents know that. They're not getting that. Adams is not getting 30. Like, he's not getting straight up 30 APY. That's not happening. Nobody in the league's paying him 30. They might pay him 30 with a bonus and a bunch of other stuff, mechanics, but nobody's paying him 30 APY. It's not happening. Thoughts on Bears hirings? Generally, I like them. Eberflus, I think, is a good choice as the head coach. He's brought some fun staff members with him. I'm excited about what the offense might be. That's a low bar for Bears fans. We haven't had any real offense to look at for quite a while. But I am legit excited. I think the pedigree of the new OC lends itself to some more players being used in more of the right ways. That is leveraging their strengths. That's something you always want to see from a football coaching staff. So I'm hopeful. And in terms of like Ryan Poles, look, he's a former offensive lineman. He just came from a team that fully understands that sometimes you got to go all in and rebuild the offensive line. Casey had to do it just last year. He was part of that effort. He's a former undrafted offensive lineman himself. He had a cup of coffee with the Bears. He gets it. The O-line is not going to look like the shambles it has for the past couple of years. And that alone gives me plenty of hope. So I think the arrow's pointing up. There are a bunch of other sort of coordinator and position coaches I would have liked to see them get, but that stuff all shakes out in the wash. It's just, you're just kind of throwing darts if you're saying in, January, oh, they're going to win because they got this wide receiver coach. Yeah, I don't think so.
I do really love what they're building over there. And, I said at the time, I was going to determine whether or not I like the Eberflus hire on how the staff looked. And I think the staff looks good because Eberflus himself, like, again, good leader, good communicator. Everybody loves him. That part I'm fine with. It's, who's actually going to be the ones doing the installs and calling the plays and, working with position groups. And I do think he's put together a really, really good staff. Not quite as good as like the Giants all-star world beating staff that Dable's put together, but I mean, that was a whole different situation. But in terms of staff today versus staff last year, not a competition for the Bears. Like this coming year's staff is overall a big upgrade. And that gives me hope for Justin Fields, especially because you got a GM who, again, understands the importance of offensive line and hopefully understands how to evaluate offensive line. I kind of have a sneaking suspicion they're going to be in on Armstead, but we'll see.
I don't know, just because of the financials. From a theoretical standpoint, 100%. From an actual we can compete, Ryan Poles has said that he prefers the second and third waves of free agency, and he's going to need to this year. Little spoiler, we're going to record a Bears Over Beers tomorrow about bargain bin free agent shopping, because I started a little list of basically leaving alone the top 50 free agents, because that's not a space the Bears, they might be able to get one of those guys and probably not one of the top guys. Armstead would be a huge statement for them, but it's almost like the Rodgers and Adams argument that we just made. Like, that would tie up a bunch, because he's tremendous. The only concern with him is number of games played per year, but he's one of the top tackles at the top of his game. He's going to command a huge salary, and I just don't think the Bears can afford it. I think Poles knows it.
Yeah, I think they'll at least send an offer.
Oh, they'll sniff
just
sure.
to see, but
yeah, they'll
we'll
see.
Aiden Kelly for $2. Thank you, Aiden. Favorite slot CB / hybrids, and why is it Marcus Jones? Ooh, that's an interesting question. Oh fuck, who's the Auburn kid we saw at Vegas? Nick. Hold on, let me look.
Oh no, not Auburn. You're talking about UVA. Nick Grant.
Nick Grant. Yes. Yeah. You're right. Yeah, it wasn't Auburn. I don't know why I thought Auburn.
Orange and
Grant. Blue. Yeah, I know. Grant really intrigues me a lot. You know, safety experience, corner experience, plays the run, which these days you have to play the run as a nickel. You know, special teams, really good kid. Talked to him for a long time. I would say, especially because this is one of these positions where you're usually not taking it high. You kind of go round 3 to round 5, diving through a whole list of names to see you can get for that kind of position. Grant, I think, is definitely one that will be popular for a lot of teams for that role. What about for you, EJ?
Yeah, I'm just looking through. I mean, we talked about one in our Defensive 10 Gems episode, which is coming early next week. In terms of guys that are, you know, truly just listed as DB, right? They have played some safety, they have some corner experience, they play slots, they play tight ends. There's a bunch of guys like that. Daxton Hill.
Oh, okay.
Daxton Hill is probably my number one for just like, he's going to be really good in the secondary in the NFL. And everybody goes, where? And it's like, wherever. Like, he can float. He's done that in Michigan's scheme. Almost nobody's talking about him because of that versatility and his success and the pedigree of the program. Like, he's a guy you might take a sneaky round 1 flyer on if you're doing futures bets. Like, I would not be at all surprised if he squeezes into the last 10 picks of the first round.
I was kind of thinking him more as like a safety, but
nah, he can definitely do the sort of Tyrann Mathieu thing, the star thing, the you know, whatever you want. There's a lot of guys in the league doing that now, and I think he's next in terms of a guy that can do all those things and sort of rotate seamlessly, be role agnostic.
Yeah. Which, again, the line between DB and safety these days is so blurred. You're really more looking at skill sets than whatever position they played in college. I can't tell you how many DBs have come out lately where it's like, oh yeah, I played corner one year, I played safety the next. Like, Jalen Ramsey was a safety and a corner.
Mm-hmm.
Javon Holland was a safety and a corner. Andre Howell was a safety and a corner.
Yep.
Like, it's so meaningless these days. You're really just looking at position. I think anybody that can play press man, yeah, fine, he's a corner. Everybody else, you're whatever the label you want to put on it is.
Yeah.
Pretty much. Corners are their own thing. Outside corners are their own thing. But just vibing for $10. Forgot to type a message with my first super chat.
Oh, we thought it was just bootleg. They love this. Is great.
Nice.
Yeah.
Just pointing out the last 2 years have been hell, and coincidentally, all of that hell started once Bootleg started.
Yeah, actually, it started. It's funny. Bootleg started right before that, and honestly, in the middle of it, before we knew it was all going on, most folks know we met each other at the Senior Bowl, and by the end of the week, we'd said, hey, we're gonna do something. We don't really know what it is, but and at that point, like, COVID was already here in the States. Like, the outbreak hadn't happened. It was about, and it was right up the road from my house. So again, arrows point towards Bootleg culpability. But no, it was like 2 to 3 weeks before that. And we had that discussion like really early on. It was like, well, we're all going to be locked in our houses. So I guess it's a pretty good time to start a podcast. So correlation isn't necessarily causation. And that's all I'll say about that.
Yeah, it's we really did pick a good time to enter an industry where Zoom calls were normalized.
Yeah.
But thank you again, Just Five. I really appreciate it, and we'll try not to ruin the earth any more than we already have.
Yeah.
Ryan for $10. Thank you, Ryan. Or $9.99 to be specific. What do you think is the most realistic trade the 49ers will receive for Jimmy G? And if you're the 49ers, is the draft plan to focus on setting up Trey Lance for success or improving the defense? This is a loaded question because it depends on what part of the media you listen to that determines how far along you think Trey Lance is. Some people in the media say he's very far away. Some people in the media says that, he's going to be the next Mahomes and Kyle loves him and he's doing crazy stuff in practice. I don't know what the truth is. I don't know how he's progressing. I think
it's fair to say that about the 49ers, people should be very wary listening to what you say.
Yes. I have that effect on the 49ers is they will do whatever pisses me off the most.
Yes.
Which is probably not trading Jimmy and leaving Lance on the bench for another year.
Please. Well, maybe that's the curse. Maybe that's it right there. You just ensured that Jimmy G will leave the Bay Area, which would be, I think, the best thing overall. It's time to do that. In terms of offers, it's hard to say because people get desperate. Like it's a game
what he
of
is.
Musical chairs, right? But it's a game of musical chairs, and he is what he is. But if the other option is nothing, and you have a dumpster fire of a situation, which a bunch of teams do at quarterback, like Jimmy is something you can sell your fans for a year. We all know, but if you want to sell anything better than, oh, well, it's terrible. I'm thinking about like Carolina's got nothing. And if they decide they're not going to draft a quarterback and they want a veteran for whatever reason, I'm not saying that's the place to go, but like Jimmy looks a lot better than the Carolina quarterback situation last year. And that's a statement. That's saying something.
I think you could go to the Colts because they seem determined to jettison Carson Wentz, but also the Colts literally just traded a high round pick for a quarterback that lasted a year there. So they're not about to send another first round pick. They'll send a day 3 because at this point you have an older, I use the word loosely, quarterback who's had documented durability issues and who also, will get you close, but you don't have great confidence that he'll actually get you there.
Yeah.
Because the 49ers rosters have been loaded on both of their conference championship runs. And they came up short both times, arguably because of lack of dynamism at the quarterback position. So if the Colts believe like, we got Jonathan Taylor, we got this defense, like we'll make it work, fine, more power to them. They can't give up a top 3 round pick for that. They just can't. It would be dumb. I mean, Niners would take it, but the Colts would be dumb to give up anything high for a quarterback that, again, not young anymore, durability issues, not super dynamic. In terms of what I think the 49ers are planning to do, they're probably holding out just to see what offers they get. And those kind of offers are going to be made at the combine this coming week. That's where everybody gets together and unofficially free agency deals are made there and trade offers are made there. So there might be some movement on this in like a couple or 2 or 3 weeks, But as of right now, it's really impossible to say. William Reed for $10. Thank you, William. Happy Bootleg Day. Happy Bootleg Day to you. I found out about Brett after the mock with Bengal. Oh, what about that? Brought in some audience from collaboration with other YouTubers? The system works, EJ.
What?
After I
Shout
listened to
out
your
to
20
Bengal.
and 21 draft live streams at work all through day 3, thank you for that. Took me about a week. We've been hooked ever since. Yeah, we were on, what, 18 hours, I think?
Yeah, last year I think was 18. The year before was like 16 and a half or something. Yeah, it's a marathon. It's a thing. Fun fact, the first year, I think it was first year we did it. We did it kind of on a whim. Yeah, 2020 draft. We did it on a whim. And we had originally, like many things Bootleg said, oh, we'll just do kind of an intro and then we'll, like, when the draft really kicks off, we'll stop. And Brett was like, you want to keep going? And of course I was like, yeah, sure, let's just keep going. I ended up having to tape some foam, like pipe insulation, to my chair arm because my elbow started like killing me, because I'd been sitting in the chair for 4 months watching film anyways, and now I was in the chair for like 6 hours straight, and I ended up having to grab some foam and tape it to my chair because like my elbow was killing me.
Yeah, I think I might get one of those like X chairs or something like that for the draft this year, because it's, unless we're doing it on location.
Yeah, even so, we got to make sure we don't get crappy chairs if we're on location. If they give us like those little conference chairs, like conference room chairs,
nope,
and go, yeah, sit here for 10 hours.
I'm going to the sports book,
right? Yeah, give me a recliner. We're good. Yeah, gotta put chairs in the rider.
Yeah, we're hoping to be able to do stuff on location, because the draft is 4 hours from me by car and a very quick
2 hours from me by plane. Yep.
Yeah, and you live like a stone's throw away from SeaTac as it is.
Yep.
Kel for $5. I got 30 seconds late. Did we cover how EJ is doing and what he's drinking? I'm panicking a bit over here. Also, I'll take a Terran hoodie.
EJ's fine. I'm just drinking seltzer because when we get done with all this fun, which is truly fun, this feels a little bit like a birthday party, and I'm totally down for that, because I think we could all use some things to celebrate. The world hasn't been super awesome, as we've discussed. So it's cool when we can come together and say, no, it is a thing, and it does make us happy, and we're glad other people enjoy it. It's really cool. I'm doing fine. What am I drinking? I'm drinking seltzer because when I get done with this, I got to plow through another bunch of offensive player tape. And then I'm recording 2 podcasts tomorrow. I think we're recording on Tuesday. So it's that balance between actually watching all these players so I can have informed opinions and tell you all cool stuff about them, and putting out that work so people know I do it. In the early years I did this, I didn't do any of that output, so nobody knew I was doing it. And then I started to do a little output, and then the balance has clearly shifted to where yesterday I got 3 inquiries while I was watching tape. Hey, could you pop on and do a thing about playing? And I was like, yeah. And then I was like, wait, if I do that, I'm going to be doing a podcast like every day next week, and I still have a lot of players to watch. So it's a balance between how much we get to talk about and share all that work and just doing the work. So if I was drinking beer right now, I would pass out after this and take a nice nap. I can't afford to do that.
Did I tell you I found Florida A&M tape? And I watched it for Marquise Bell, which the podcast hasn't gone out yet, but
yeah, I was going to say it's a little weird because they don't know what we're talking about. But
EJ brought up Florida A&M DB Marquise Bell, who I had not watched a lick of because it's Florida A&M, and I go perusing around and I found some Florida A&M tape, and I'm officially intrigued.
I knew you would be. Yeah, he's a fun player, and he's not the only fun player, even from that team. Anyways, check out 10 Gems coming out early next week. I go on a little rant about HBCUs and the quality of players that play there, and how they have or have not been looked at in the draft process. It's good stuff, but there's a ton of fun players. I've got another one for you, by the way. And what the hell? I'll just drop
HBCU player?
Specifically because they're saying HBCU player, like there's 100 and something HBCUs. There's a lot of players that play there, but another specifically HBCU defensive back who is like, what? Actually, there's two of them. One of them is, hang on, I want to get the names right. Where is he? So Antoine Collier, who also plays for A&M, Florida A&M.
Okay.
He was a UCF guy. So most of the tape you're going to see from him is UCF. And you're going to recognize him because
transferred, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But you're going to remember a lot of that. And the other one is, I want to say, super plain name. I want to get it right. Josh Williams, actually Joshua Williams from Fayetteville State.
Oh, that dude's a freak. I remember watching reps from him.
He's amazing. He's really good. So anyways, both those guys, Antoine Collier and Joshua Williams from Fayetteville State. So Florida A&M and Fayetteville State. Two guys that both are well over 6 foot, move really well. I talked about, whether or not folks can swivel their hips, whether or not they move their feet the right way. Both those guys do, and they're like 6+, 200 pounds, right around 200 pounds each. Like,
I think Josh Williams was a Senior Bowl guy, if I remember correctly.
Yes, Josh Williams was, and Antoine Collier was the defensive MVP of the HBCU Bowl.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm still working my way through Senior Bowl one-on-one tape because that's much harder to get.
Yes.
than Shrine Bowl tape for whatever godforsaken reason. But I will send a terse, strongly worded
email. You're going to send another strongly worded email. Not going to start off with "Hope this finds you well."
No.
Oh, good.
EM Baller, $5. What are your thoughts on Miami Dolphins hiring Mike McDaniel? Do you think him and his staff can help Tua be the guy? I think if anybody can help that Miami offense in general, not just Tua, but everybody else, I think it is Mike McDaniel. Brilliant coach, long track record. I mean,
and we were talking about staff earlier, the staff he has assembled. Our buddy that does the Drive Time podcast, Travis Wingfield, works for the Dolphins, and he did a deep dive into all the assistant coaches, and he actually reached out to me and said, "What do you know about some of these guys?" And I knew a few of them, and the staff that McDaniel has assembled down there is low key really good. If you go back and it's tough to evaluate staff coming in because they're usually getting a bump and doing something they haven't done before necessarily. But if you go back and look at the people that Mike McDaniel brought in and look at where they were and look at how many career years occurred in their position group when they were at their previous stop, it's obscene. There are a lot of really great NFL seasons sprinkled over that staff over the last 5 or 8 years at their previous stops. Like, that has a chance to, again, like you said, best chance to be the best they can be. Yeah.
Also, keep in mind, McDaniel's been working with Kyle Shanahan hand in hand. He's been his number 2 guy. Going back to the mid to late 2000s under Gary Kubiak in Houston, where, Kyle was a position coach and then a coordinator, and McDaniel was there as, I think he started out as quality control, and again, was Shanahan's guy. And he started out as an intern with the Broncos working with Mike, if I recall correctly, the story. And then, that's how we got to know Kyle, and, 17 years, I think they've been working together in the league, which is insane. So all of the offensive success that we attribute to Kyle Shanahan, McDaniel had a big role in that, in terms of, run game design, how it meshes together the pass game, understanding spacing and timing and angles and all that kind of stuff. Like, McDaniels he's the chief lieutenant of one of the best offensive coaches of the last decade. That matters. So I think it was a good
buy Jalen Waddle stock now.
Buy Gesicki stock now. Buy Tua stock.
Gesicki's not going to be there.
Is he free agent?
He's a free agent.
Oh,
and he's going to get offers. He's probably the top tight end free agent, and depending on how you want to count Gronkowski, but like Gesicki's right up there. He's top 50. He's
I
going
didn't
to
realize
get
he was
big
a
money
free
offer.
agent already. Man, has he been in the league that long? I totally didn't realize that. Yeah, no, he'll get off again. He's one of these big athletic.
Buy Jalen Waddle stock. It's going to go through the roof.
Where do you think Gesicki goes? Just random question.
I know where I'd like him to go. He's not going to go there.
Chargers?
No, I want him to go to the Bears. I really like
Oh,
Gesicki.
yeah.
I think he's super underrated. For he is what he is. If you're looking for like the speedy Evan Engram type, he's not that. But for what Gesicki is, he is incredibly effective. Big fan of his game. Where does he go? Oh, it'd be super fun. Replace Uzama, because Uzama's a free agent too.
Ooh. And they have the money too.
Yeah, they could.
They could do it.
They could totally do it. And he's a pretty good blocker at his size. I mean, he's not.
Yeah.
He's not.
Uzama's going to get a pretty good deal as well.
Yeah,
like
for sure.
It's a good tight end class, both free agent and draft wise. Evan Sartain or Sartain?
Sartain? Who knows?
Sartain? Correct me in chat.
Thank you.
Apologize.
Either way, Evan.
Thank you. Hutchinson or Thibodeau. Like I think we said at the beginning of the show, it just depends on who we're drafting for. If we're drafting for like a team that runs a lot of odd front, they stand up the edges, they like bigger outside linebackers. Aiden Hutchinson's the guy. If you run more even front, you want a guy with a hand in the dirt, screaming off the weak side edge. Thibodeau. It's very similar discussion of, do you like God, who's the fucking Carolina kid?
Burns.
Yeah. Do you like Brian Burns or do you like Zadarius Smith or Rashawn Gary? And the answer is yes.
Yeah, I think people love this. And look, this is where the focus of draft media goes, is top 50 picks. Yeah. Like ad nauseum for the next 3 months, 5,000 people in draft media are going to be talking about 50 guys. And that's fine. That's what people care about. After the first round, people largely don't care. So this question and questions like this get recycled a lot. Like people ask this question a lot. And the answer is, look, these guys are both really good players. And even if we said, oh, we like Hutchinson over Thibodeau, it would be by this much.
If that.
Like, yeah, I mean, it people tend to think there's a very binary way of thinking about this, which is if they said Hutchinson is good, it means Thibodeau is bad. And the answer is nah, they're both great.
Honestly, the key question that I think some people will eventually be interested in once people learn more names and we get the combine and everything like that is like, for all the other teams that have no prayer of Hutchinson or Thibodeau, they're going to be like, okay, well, now who do we take? And that's when, that's when we get into Jermaine Johnson, Cam Thomas, AK, because there's a fucking million edges this year.
Williams. I love Sam Williams. He's a guy, but I was thinking, this came to mind yesterday when I was doing the free agency workup for Bears Over Beers. And the combine is kicking off later this week. There's a bunch of guys that I've watched, and I haven't watched enough to have a full list, but there's already like a handful of guys, 5-10 guys that I'm like, I really want to see what they do at the combine because I think they're good. And I'll drop one here. Jeremiah Gemmel. He's a linebacker out of UNC.
Okay.
I like that guy. Like, I'm really interested to see how he tests. I don't really care because I like his tape either way. And he does have a more specific role. Like, he's not going to be a great, like we talked about, a New England prototype linebacker. That's not his gig. But, there's guys. And Gemmel, I watched him and I thought, why aren't more people talking about this guy? So fascinated to see how guys like that test. And I'd love to have a list of like,
is he like
5 or 10 guys?
Akeem Davis Gaither type?
No, he's bigger. He's bigger. And you know how I feel about Akeem, or felt about Akeem as a draft prospect. But no, I think Gemmel is a sort of more prototypical weak side guy. But, saying weak side guy really just means 3-down linebacker in the NFL anymore because everybody plays nickel. Nickel's the new base. And could he be one of 2 linebackers playing, nickel backer 3 downs for somebody? And I feel like he could be. We'll see.
Yeah. Jonathan Peck, $5. Thank you, John. Hi, Brett and EJ. Big fan of you guys. This question is a bit outside of the box. What are your thoughts on the revival of the USFL this spring? I think it's good because, especially now, because there's so many college players that didn't enter the league in the last 2 years because of COVID. So now this draft class is gigantic. Like words don't even do it justice. Like how many? There's almost like a backlog of players.
There's a huge backlog
waiting to get into the NFL, and so not all of them can mathematically get into the NFL. Not all of them can make practice squads. There's got to be a place for these guys to go because they could still play football. And they still, I think, deserve a shot to show what they can do. And I think the USFL is a potential opportunity to do that. Even guys, trying to go on their their last shot, so to speak, like Jordan Ta'amu's of the world. Go to the USFL.
Oh, come on. Paxton Lynch was sitting right there for you.
Honestly, I didn't even realize he was still trying to get into the league until this happened.
He just got released out of the CFL and like the next day got drafted by the USFL. Jordan Ta'amu is a guy I actually think I like this opportunity for him. Paxton Lynch is more like, hey, good on him for continuing to push his dream. I missed on him terribly. Speaking, you just put out your misses on Film Room for quarterbacks. I thought Paxton Lynch was going to be serviceable. I didn't think he was going to be a world beater, but I thought he was a guy that could grow into an effective spot starter in the NFL. Didn't work out that way. But Ta'amu, I think, has tools, and a league like the USFL is a place where he can get more reps, and he's played well in other leagues. It's a place where guys like that can get more reps, and a place where a guy like Zach Hicks, who's the quarterback out of Tulsa, I saw last year against UCF, and I thought, again, he doesn't have NFL tools for the most part, but man, he's tough. He's smart. He made some good late throws over the middle. I put out a tweet about it last year. He just got picked up in like the, 10th round or something. I was a bit surprised, actually, and I'd love to hear what you thought about it, but I was surprised how quickly that sort of crust dropped off. If I was looking at the top 10 rounds for all the, what is it? They have 8 teams, I think. Like after about the 3rd round, I was like, wow, I don't recognize a lot of these names. And that's surprising given the business we're in. But, there was a flash down the board every once in a while, but like, I was really surprised because that's only like 24 players. If you're talking about, 8 teams, 3 picks, like after that, it got real thin real quick. And I kind of went into it the same thing you did, like, oh, there's this big backlog of players. And, there's definitely a huge desire, appetite for football viewing and consumption. And I love the idea of a developmental league. And I was like, yeah. And by the time I was to like round 5 of most of those teams, I was like, this guy was a UDFA for the Bears and didn't make it through camp. Like, that's all I got.
But there are some stories like PJ Walker.
For sure.
Where it's like sometimes they get another shot in the league because of these kind of
I think Ta'amu will. There's always a need for quarterback play, and he's got tools. I liked his tape. I, again, thought he was a guy that somebody should take a chance on if they had a chance to develop him, not somebody that should be plugged in as a starter right away at all. He was not ready for that, but he was intriguing, and I think he's still in the intriguing category. Yeah, we'll see.
And, like Logan Thomas, like these are the kind of leagues that would have taken a shot on Logan Thomas, back in the day.
Yeah, as a quarterback, not as a tight end.
As a quarterback. But, it's beneficial for kids. I really like that they're doing it. Record Gaming 21. Appreciate the $5, bud. Thank you for the support. How dangerous can the Bengals offense be when Joe is able to get through his full reads? I'll let you know when we see it for the first time.
Yeah, no, wickedly dangerous, like
theoretically dangerous.
A knife sharp enough you don't give it to children. Like they're going to be the fact that they made the Super Bowl with the quote unquote, yes, air quotes, protection that he was afforded, which was not protection at all. For young Bengals fans, I feel like they might have a twisted idea about what good offensive line play is because they might think they saw some this year. They saw very little, if any. No, if you give him 2.5 seconds, just go back and look at his run at LSU. Like he has so many great weapons right now. And I think Duke Tobin and his staff have done a great job understanding that that's necessary And they're not going to I don't think they're going to pull the plug on that effort. I don't think they're just not going to sign those guys as they come up or not replace them if they leave. They realize that 4 or 5 or 6 is the right number of weapons for Burrow to have, because he is one of those guys that can go through his progressions and just gut you on his 4th read. So that 4th guy, if he's a playmaker, you can score from anywhere, anytime with 4 of 6 guys. Very, very dangerous is my answer.
If he gets 2.5 seconds to throw instead of 2, he'll win an MVP. I'll put it that way.
Yep.
Just get
I
new
don't
guards.
even think that's a lukewarm take.
No. Get new center, new left guard. I still want to see what Carmen's got at right guard, but health has been an issue.
You're not going to give that one up, are you?
Fuck no, I'm not.
This is one of we do have our places where we disagree, and I've been seeing everybody says we agree all the time. Not true. I keep seeing it cycle through the chat. We're going to talk about another one of these, but he liked the Jackson Carman pick, and I was like, it's not enough. Like, I don't like it at all. And he was like, no, I think it could work. You move him inside and you know, again, it's not about being right. It's like, I didn't like it. He did. But the one that keeps coming up again, we talked about those top 50 players, and it's Olave versus Wilson.
Where do you have I asked you your opinion?
Yeah, we've talked about this several times. I don't know that we've gone flat out. I like Olave. Like, I understand why you like Garrett. Like, I get it. I understand why everybody likes Garrett.
Yeah.
Like, and again, neither of these players is bad. Neither of these players is someone I think is going to be a bust. I think they're both going to be wildly productive. I think they are a bit different. For my money, I'm going to take Olave, especially because I'm probably at this point, like, if you're looking at you know, simulated mock draft position and everything else, like, Olave is available a lot later than Wilson. I will take that all day long. I will wait and take Olave because I think he's, again, different. But for my money, I want Olave.
Yeah, I think it depends on the kind of role you're trying to fill.
100%.
But my overall grade will probably be higher on Garrett Wilson.
Yeah, I think it will, given what you've talked about him. So it'll be fun.
Physical tools, but again, it's not like I'll look at Chris Olave and be like, that's an inferior football player, because who the fuck looks at Chris Olave and says he's inferior to anyone? He's a beast, you know. It just depends on what you need, who you want.
Yep.
Let's see. Christian Doyle for $5. Thank you, Christian. Always wanted a Kuechly Pick 6 2015 NFC Championship hoodie. Oh, that's an interesting one.
Again, defensive play. You got to figure out how to do that.
I know the drawing has been difficult on a couple of them. I'm still trying to figure out how to do it without it just being a mess of lines, but I'll find a way.
Oh, look at the segue. Look at the segue.
Why are people not as high?
Oh, I love
all right, EJ. Talk about why you like Chris Olave. How about that?
Chris Olave is and I think, like, if you had this discussion last year, nobody was early last year. Nobody was talking about Wilson. Like, his ascendancy really occurred over the last 24 months. Whereas 24 months ago, you're talking about Olave. Everybody's like, as soon as he comes out, he's going to be one of the top receivers picked. He's really complete. He's very good. All the receivers that we talked to at the Shrine Bowl, when we talk to them about why they do what they do, or how they do what they do, or why they watch the guys that they do, it's about completeness. It's about doing all the things right. It's about marrying the feet to the hips, to the shoulders, to the head, to not flashing the hands until late. It's about putting all those things together, making all the stems look the same, ability to run a wide variety of routes, ability to win in different ways. I saw a great thing this week that said one of the biggest fallacies about wide receiver play is that if you can't smoke a guy off the line, you can't get separation. That's not true. There's 3 different places wide receivers can get separation in a route. One is off the line, and we see guys like Jerry Jeudy. Like, Jerry Jeudy was a guy that famously had releases for days and instantly had separation. So everybody was kind of an easy eval. Everybody's like, oh, he can separate. Look, he blew the guy away at the line 9 times out of 10. You can do it at the line. You can do it in the middle of the route. And you see that again, making the stem look the same, head fakes at the break. There's a bunch of ways in the middle of the route to gain separation. So some guys do it that way. And the other one is at the catch point. And this is the one where people brought it up a lot about Jamar Chase. They're like, well, he's always having to make these contested catches. Yeah, and he always does, right? And he finds a way at the catch point, whether it's through leaping ability, whether it's through body position, whether it's through there's any number of ways to separate. And there are guys that do that consistently. You know, I think about one of your favorite receivers in Houston now, Arizona, right?
Yeah.
He doesn't always blow people away off the line, right? He doesn't always blow people away in the middle of the route.
But
A lot of times
it's how he uses leverage and sideline awareness.
A lot of people are with him when he makes the catch, but does he always make the catch?
Yep.
Just about always, right? So there's 3 places a wide receiver can win or create separation. They're not the same. They don't look the same. And as long as it works, like you can win however you want to, as long as you can win in one of those 3 places. And to me, Olave can win in all 3 of those places. And I love that.
I don't think I could have said that any better myself. You know, the
Well,
argument for it's like the argument for Wilson is like, okay, if he gets Olave's skills with those tools,
yep,
nobody will be able to handle him.
No.
And the argument for Olave is, well, he already has all the skills, so just take that guy. You know,
yeah.
So, Micah for $5. Hey guys, what's the best way to learn and break down all 22? Is there a particular resource you recommend for identifying schemes and assignments? Coaching clinics, best place to start, I would say. There's a good book by Cam Soren called The Pass Coverage Glossary that I really like a lot. Bobby Peters writes a lot of like offensive schematic books. I'm going to forget a bunch of these.
Yeah. And I'll say in terms of resources, we just talked about wide receivers winning different ways. There's different ways to break down all 22. One is you do have to have a basic familiarity with schemes, but I stress the word basic. You do not need to know all the terms, all the calls, all the coverage responsibilities. In fact, even folks like Brett, who dive as deeply as anybody I know into all that stuff, don't know it all the time. There's plays that he and I go back and forth about. I send him this and say, I think this guy was doing this. What do you think? And he's like, I think the same thing, but I can't tell you definitively he absolutely should have. So even if you study as hard, you're never going to know all those rules. And I'm going to say that's okay. You can still understand concepts and whether or not a player is capable of, let's just say, executing a role, his role, a future role. That's the other thing is sometimes we get really caught up in scheme and we're like, well, he's so good in zone. And then he goes to a man team and you're like, well, does he have the physical traits to play man? Well, I don't know. I was so focused on whether or not it would, he had his guy. Like, so there's different ways to look at all 22 and still be good at it. So find a way that works for you. And that is largely borne out in results. Make sure you put your results back against your process and say, how did it work? And then adjust, because you will need to adjust forever. There is no perfect.
And I remember there was I can't remember what quarterback we were looking at when we were at the Airbnb in Vegas. And I think it wasn't even a quarterback we were trying to look at. It was just somebody we were watching and the quarterback showed up and he was making these throws. And you're like, okay, on time, good placement, everything like that. And my stupid fucking lizard brain kept getting stuck on what quarters rules are these guys in where the linebackers like sinking and just letting the guy hook up in front. And I got stuck on this for 5 minutes and I was replaying over and over and EJ was just looking over like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I can't figure out what covers this is. And EJ's like, who fucking cares? He made the throw.
Yeah, we're looking at the arm, we're looking at the angle, we're looking at the timing. Did he make a throw on time? Did it let the receiver run after the catch? These are the things that you're interested in. And sometimes, oftentimes, and I'll do this too. It's not just Brett. I'll do it for different things. And I'm looking at a play and I get really tired. Like, what is the line doing? Like, yeah, the linebacker made a great tackle, but why was the lane there? And then you kind of have to snap back and be like, no, I'm watching the runner, right?
Yeah.
Pat Kerwan wrote a book a long time ago, said take your eye off the ball was the name of the title of the book. And when football fans start with their eye right in the middle between the 2 lines, looking at the ball and they just track the ball. And then eventually they expand their vision to maybe look at the line during the snap, and then they expand out to the successive areas of football as they sort of watch or want to know more. And it's really good advice. Take your eye off the ball. And I have to remember that a lot of times, especially when I'm watching defensive players. Like, the ball is not so important for some roles. I know that seems really strange, but it's true. And I need to remember to not be looking at how the quarterback's motion is when I'm looking at, a strong side linebacker who's maybe setting an edge and isn't involved in the pass play. His job was to go do that. And can he do that? It's a lot more fun to look at the passer, but you need to have some discipline to know what you're looking at. And that takes a while. It's just practice.
And sometimes, I get caught up on, like, if there's a busted coverage, it's so easy to be like, well, that doesn't count for the receiver. It's a bust.
And the release is still good.
But it's like, if he's still running away from these dudes, you still get something out of that. You could still see he's fast. You could still see how he tracks it. There was a Christian Watson play that I posted this week. And, there were people saying, it's like, okay, well, he's one-on-one against an off safety against a blitz that got picked up. Like, yeah, he should win. It's like, I agree. He should win on a double move. There's no post help there. But he did win.
And he won big.
And he adjusted back outside, made a Willie Mays catch. It's like, there's still valuable information in that rep.
Always pull stuff. Always. I don't care how bad the rep is. You can pull something from, again, his release. Like, Watson didn't know when he released, or maybe he did, but he still had to run the release. How did he run the release? Like, and maybe if he did know and he still ran a good release, I like that even more. Right. Mm-hmm. If he knew he had that guy beat, he's like, look, there's no help. This is adult. Like, I should just run straight. He can't keep up with me. Like, and he still, made the release look good, sold the move, and won big because of that. I love that even more. So there's layers upon layers. It's definitely an onion.
Andrew for $5. How do you think McDaniels will do with Las Vegas? And what do you think of the coaching staff so far? I really like Graham as the DC. Getting Graham as the DC, honestly, was like the key
move. Yeah.
Yes, that was unbelievable for them to be able to get Graham. And it was a bad loss for the Giants, in terms of losing probably the best coach that was on their roster. Like, the best coach for their team is now doing the same position for somebody else. Like, there's no way to spin that as a positive for the Giants. But it's a great pickup for Vegas. I think the Raiders defense for several years now has been like almost there, where they've had some really good young pieces that we've really liked, and they've been really close to being good, but just haven't consistently been able to. It's been like a game here, a game there, and then, they play against the Chiefs and call cover 3 80% of the time and get absolutely killed. I don't think Patrick Graham is going to make the same mistakes that Gus Bradley did. And I think this is the first time in a while that I have confidence in the Raiders coaching staff maximizing the talent on the roster. So I think they're in a better spot this year by far than they were last year. And they were still, making a run at the postseason up until literally the final minute of the season.
Yeah, I'm interested to see McDaniels in his second go around. His first one was terrible. His second one, if you want to call it that, was his flirtation was not great. I want to see what he's learned. Everybody's, he learned his lessons. He's ready to go. And look, we've seen coaches have done it. Pete Carroll, right? Bill Belichick, right? They got chances. They were not successful. Everybody said, they're busts. They got another chance. McDaniel's in that spot now, and he has a really good roster. This is not an expansion team level roster. This is a team that has tons of talent, is returning a bunch of talent. Graham will help him maximize a bunch of the talent that they have that I think they didn't use or use properly on the defensive side. But I'm really interested to see if he can replicate it. And if he can adapt, right? Because we've seen a ton of New England coaches, and I realize you sort of scout the coach, not the visor, to adapt a phrase. But we've seen a ton of New England coaches who just try and make it the Belichick way light when they go, and those coaches have largely not been successful. And so is he going to be able to adapt and make it the sort of McDaniels way, which is definitely brings a lot of the lessons he learned in New England, but adapts for what Vegas is. And, they're not New England. So really want to see how that works out. Was jumping up and down when they got Graham as the DC.
Yeah, and there's been a lot of speaking of Raiders in general here. There's been a lot of division in Raiders fans in terms of what to do about Carr. Trust me, you don't want to see what's on the other side of the fence.
Yeah.
Unless you're getting Russ or you're getting Rodgers, be thankful you have Carr. You do not want to see what it looks like when you don't have a top 15 quarterback, which, again, unless you're getting those other two guys, if you still get rid of Carr and you got nobody else, the grass is not always greener on the other side. Be thankful for what you got. Now, it doesn't mean you can't draft a developmental kid and you know, maybe see what's there, but don't get rid of Carr. Bad mistake. Diego Pena for $5. Thank you, Diego. Happy 2 years, guys. Happy to see you guys doing well. What do you think of, speaking of the Raiders, what do you think Max Crosby's ceiling is? Defensive player of the year for starters. As good as he is, I think he can be even better. I agree. I think he was one of the early and consistent favorites for defense player of the year the entire year long. And I think if he's getting, like, the more help he gets on defense, and by that, I mean, the more situations he has where he can rush the passer and, you know, have it not be 3rd and 3, 3rd and 2. If he gets more 3rd and 7s, 3rd and 8s, which I think Patrick Graham will be able to cook up for him. And, you know, with some of the pressure schemes that Graham was showing with the Giants, where, like, mathematically you're forced to leave the edges one-on-one, that's a good thing for Max Crosby. I think he's going to have his best year under Patrick Graham. I really do. I think he very easily could make a run at defensive player of the year. And I'd honestly be surprised if he's not one of those names that we're looking at next year for that.
Yeah, if you look at Graham's history in his time as all of his defensive roles, he understands how to use a good defensive end or multiple good defensive ends. That Max was one of the guys I was happiest for when Graham ended up going to Vegas. I was like, well, that's one of their best players who arguably is going to get better with the addition of a coach that fully understands how to use him even better than his previous coach, who understands a lot about defense. Let's not say Gus Bradley was terrible, but if you give me a choice between what Gus Bradley's going to do with defensive ends and what Patrick Graham's going to do with defensive ends, I'm choosing Graham 10 times out of 10.
Yeah, it's the arrow as a whole for the Raiders is pointing up, but especially for their stars. I really do believe that. Jacob Hassel for $5. Thank you, Jake. As a Steelers fan, I've been eyeing the centers in this class. I like Lindstrom as a mid-round. So Lindstrom ain't going. Well,
careful with that.
He might.
He might. And I would say they're going to start looking at him as early as the beginning of the 3rd. They are not going to. He's probably going to go in the 4th.
It depends. Again, it depends on the team. It depends on what kind of run scheme we're talking about here.
Yeah.
Some teams would say no way. Some teams would be like, absolutely, he's our kind of guy. I guess it depends on how much zone the Steelers want to run. And you know, how much specifically like mid zone and outside zone they want to run. We'll kind of see. But if that's what they want to do with their run game, which they very easily could, because Najee Harris is very capable of that. Yeah, 3rd round, Lindstrom, I could see it. But if they just want to do like, hey, we're running gap stuff and power stuff, and we need a center that can go up there and absolutely dominate some 330-pound nose tackle at the point of attack, that ain't the guy, you know? So we won't know what they want their run game to look like, honestly, until they draft more guys in the offensive line. And then we'll kind of figure out what they want to do based on who they have as their starting 5. You can always tell what an offense wants to do based on what their offensive line looks like, you know, because it's very unique skill sets. But I agree. What round will teams start looking at him? For the teams that want to be more zone-centric, probably the 3rd. For the teams that don't want to be zone-centric or maybe just want to be a little bit more versatile, late 4, early 5, somewhere around there. Just depends. Isaiah Ruff for $2 Canadian. Thank you, Isaiah. Thoughts on Kwesi and KOC
Kevin O'Connell.
O'Connell, yes. I keep thinking O'Rourke for some reason. The other Irish name. As
Yes,
Vikings.
those are the only two.
Everybody in Ireland has those two names.
Oh man. No, I like Kwesi. Kwesi's outside the box. I can't wait to see how he adapts what I think had become a bit stale. Spielman, I think, filled the cupboard in a good way. Like the Vikings have not been bereft of talent. Like they've had players, but the overall, fair or unfair, overall that organization had become stale. Right? It was pretty expected that they would compete. They'd win a few games that they shouldn't, but overall they'd be just over 500 and probably not challenging for the division. And to shake it up, like Kwesi's about as shake it up as you get. Mm-hmm. He's incredibly smart, very different approach than Spielman. So it'll be fascinating to see how the organization shifts underneath him. And O'Connell, again, a focus on offense, and you need it in modern NFL. Like you need it. There's just no other way to say that. And that, of course, points to the big question of what can you do with Kirk, and how far do they think they can go, and how much do they think they can get out from underneath his contract? It won't be this year, but yeah, it'll be a fascinating experiment. I think it makes them more dangerous. Like it's more high variance. Being it's in the division I root for. Like I'm more worried about it eventually. Maybe not this year, but maybe. We've seen teams get good real quick when they brought in different offensive scheme, and again, they're not short on dudes. They've got guys that can move the football in that building already, and they're going to add some in the draft. So
everywhere that he's been, which he was with the Niners for 3 years when they were kind of starting to build on their run, when they started investing and building that crazy ass defensive line, and they picked up Kittle, and the offensive lineman the offensive line they built the first time and the second time, because Trent Williams was they brought in for the second run they made here. But everywhere he's been, because he was there and then he was in Cleveland for the last 2 years, they drafted really, really well. The Niners had like one questionable draft. That was the Solomon Thomas year. But again, that was his first year there, so who knows? Like, and I think that was also Kyle's second.
It was Lynch's first year, I think.
It was Lynch's and Kyle's first year and Kwesi's first year. They were still kind of figuring it out, but then they made the Super Bowl 2 years later. They rebounded pretty strong from that first draft, and then he went to Cleveland. He was their VP of football operations, and they had 2 back-to-back absolutely incredible drafts. And it's easy to say, oh, he's going to lean on analytics. Okay, well, what does that mean? What it means is they're going to use the data that is available to them in ways that are practical for grading football skills. So like the GPS trackers, it's one thing to sit there and, time on a stopwatch, how fast somebody's running in a 40, but what does that actually mean for being on the field? The Browns didn't really care about 40s when Kwesi was there. What they cared about was the GPS in the pads that was measuring acceleration rate, yards covered, all that kind of stuff. And then they have algorithms that project 40 time based on that historical data and how those guys in the past ran the 40. And, that's how they got LeCount in the 6th after his motorcycle accident. He had a terrible pro day, ran like a 4.8, something like that. Well, they took the GPS data from the pads and projected it to be a 4.5 flat kind of guy, which you watch him on tape and yeah, that makes sense. He's a 4.5 kind of guy. And so they don't really care what the testing numbers are at the combine. They care what GPS data is. They care about, snap counts, how often were you within X yards of the ball when targeted? They have certain, like for edge rushers, they have what do you call it? Gyroscopes, where they can measure the angle that you bend when you're turning the corner. So now it's not just going off eye, like they actually have data that measures how bendy guys are, how low they can get and still maintain speed around the corner. So having a GM with the Vikings that can weaponize that kind of data and knows how to use it and has been with 2 organizations in the last 4 years that have drafted back to back to back to back to back really well, yeah, I'm very confident in this GM hire. And that's nothing against Spielman. I thought Spielman was a good GM too, but this I think is a transformational move for the Vikings, bringing in somebody that understands all these modern concepts for how to build a football team. If I was a Vikings fan, I'd be very excited. I'll just leave it at that. Let's see here. Kel for $5. 240 watching, only 43 likes. I paid $5 to ask everyone to help the guy out with the algorithm. I appreciate that, Kel. I really do. Happy bootleg day. Autumn McComb for $5. Thank you, Autumn. Thoughts on Bengals target and FA in the draft? Also, after you answer that, can you say hello to my partner? Their name is Leaf, and I think it's fun. Well, hello, Leaf.
Hi, Leaf. That's easy. We already talked about one in free agency. That was Gesicki. He would be fun. All the offensive linemen, they're going to be linked to everyone. And Bengals Twitter's been joking about this for a while now, but it's not really a joke. They should be linked to every single one. And people say, "Oh, well, not left tackle." Yeah, left tackle.
Why not?
Jonah is good, but again,
he gave up 10 sacks this year.
If you put him out there as the only thing just because of where you drafted him, that's not an approach. So all the offensive linemen is the short answer. They have most of their weapons. They're going to need to reload if they lose Uzama at tight end, but as Brett pointed out earlier, they have the money. Defense wise, they were a lot better than expected. Bates is going to go. I doubt very much that he'll be back. He's going to command a massive salary in free agency, and good for Jesse. Go get your bag. But he's going to be a big loss. They leaned on him really hard.
Are they letting him go?
I don't know if they're letting him go, but they're going to have to pay dearly if they keep him. So
I wonder who signs first, him or Marcus Williams.
I would say Bates sets the market before Williams, but there's 4 good. I put this out on Twitter yesterday. There's 4 really good free safeties out there this year. If you think your team is one good roaming free safety away from being great, you've got great choices. You got Marcus May, you got Bates, you got Jesse Williams, and I'm spacing on the other one. Oh, Quandre Diggs, who's at the top of the list. So you got 4 guys out there that if you're willing to open the coffers, and you will have to open the coffers for all 4 of those guys, but if you really want a good deep third safety, and you think that's a key piece, you could do it this year. And it's not every year that you can say that. A lot of times there's 1, maybe 2 guys. There's 4 this year that can play that role for you. So that might work against Bates getting top dollar because they can play one off the other, but he's still going to get paid. He's great player.
I think Scherf is on the market as well. One of the top guards in the league. I would be stunned if Cincy doesn't at least explore that since interior is such a problem for them. Orlando Brown's probably going to stay in Kansas City, I would think, because they already traded for him. They got to sign him long term, but again, something to explore. They got the money, might as well. Ryan Jensen, low key, kind of under the radar, would love that for them.
Brian Allen,
that's the thing is I think DJ put out a tweet where he looked at the Super Bowl winning offensive lines for the last 5 years, and overwhelmingly the largest category was veteran free agency pickups and trades. So it's that's how you build it. That's how you do it. So I think they're going to be very active. I would be interested to see if they take a swing at JC Jackson, just cause. Just cause. Why not?
If they lose Bates, I could see it. You're sort of replacing another sort of primetime piece in the secondary with another primetime piece. Different player, but
because you can still get a good safety in this class outside of the first round.
For sure.
Very good safety in this class outside of the first round. I don't think you're going to get a JC Jackson. So if we're just talking about resource allocation, I could see that, but not that their corners are bad.
No, the corners played surprisingly well.
Jackson,
most of them, but they need more, and we'll see it. So some secondary based on what happens with Bates and all the offensive linemen, all of them ever.
Don Burr for $5. Detroit smoked last draft. Brad Holmes will do it again, I think. Yeah, they did really well in the trenches. I think now it's time to build out the skill positions. Amon-Ra St. Brown, I think, was a slam dunk pick, but they still need more receivers. another tight end to go with Hawkinson, I think, would be prudent in this tight end class because there's a million of them.
It's loaded.
More DBs, more linebackers, more receivers. And I can't remember how many picks they have. I think it's 8, if I remember correctly. Like they'll have the ammo to do it. And we might see a wild quarterback pick.
I want to see a quarterback pick because and people say, well, it's not the quarterback pick. I don't care. Right? You pick quarterbacks until, and if they pick a quarterback this year and it doesn't pan out, you pick a quarterback next year. Like, you just do that, because until you have your quarterback, and I don't think anybody should expect that out of this year's quarterback class that the guy they pick, wherever that is, second, third, whatever, is going to be the guy. I doubt it very much. Does that mean you don't do it? No, it goes back to the Ron Wolf thing, right? You pick a quarterback every year until you have one. And then, famously, if you're the Packers, you don't after that. But no, I want to see them pick a quarterback because I think there are guys that can play. And, look, if Jared Goff gets hurt, like, I would like to have somebody there that can take reps, and maybe they turn out to be the next backup. That's fine. Right.
I'm trying to look it up because I want to make sure that he's there. Because they have, I think it's John Dorsey. Is he still in Detroit? I think he is.
I don't know.
Sure he is. Yeah, he's a senior personnel executive with Detroit.
Yeah.
Because I remember a buddy texted mine that John went over there, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. Because John really knows talent.
For sure. Great evaluator.
Well, and he was there for last year's draft.
Yeah,
which then gave some context of why we love last year's draft so much, because John Dorsey could fucking pick players. Like, he's really good at that. The money side of things, not so much. But in terms of talent evaluation, like, he can pick players. So knowing that he's there, and knowing that he was there in Kansas City when, they had a veteran quarterback that was serviceable. Well, honestly, Alex Smith was more than serviceable, but it was good enough. But then they risked it all and went on like a high tools kid that needed time to sit in Patrick Mahomes. And they gave him that year because they didn't feel pressured to remove Alex Smith. I don't think they feel pressured to remove Jared Goff right now.
No.
I do think that we might get a quarterback pick higher than people think with some of these toolsy guys, whether you're a Malik Willis guy, a Ritter guy, Howell guy, whoever you like at number 2. For me, it would personally be Malik Willis, but again, you can make arguments for any of them at this point. We're very early on the process. Just with Dorsey's front row seat when he made that pick, and it worked. I know Brett Veach gets a lot of credit for making that pick, but Dorsey was still the GM. Let's be honest here. I think they might try that. I truly do think that they might try that plan and take a quarterback high.
Yeah, I don't know about high, but again, there's going to be some quarterback talent available lower. If they want like Willis or Ritter, yeah, it's going to be high. But there's some possibility that top end of the second. I mean, Drew Brees famously was first pick in the second round. That kind of a thing. I mean, you're not necessarily getting a Hall of Famer. In fact, the odds are you aren't getting a Hall of Famer with any quarterback pick, because the odds are against most quarterbacks even working out. But doesn't mean you don't take a stab at the top of the second if, whoever. It's again, it's not about the name, but if there's a guy that they like that's there, like, I would not be opposed to them spending a high second round pick. And if he doesn't pan out, that's okay. That's the way picks work. You got to make the picks to take the chances, as opposed to saying, no, we're going to save all these picks. You don't get to save them unless you trade them in the next year. You have to spend them this year. So spend one on what is essentially a lottery ticket, and maybe the guy works out. Maybe he's just a clipboard holder. That's fine. Clipboard holders are getting expensive. Like, there's guys making 8, 9, 10 million to hold clipboards. And if you use a second round pick and you don't have to pay that guy 8, 9, 10 million, because you won't in the top of the second round, and you have 4 years of control, that's a valuable asset.
Charlie Whitehurst would have been a billionaire in this current market.
Well, you don't have to look any farther than, I mean, there's several guys that have, Chase Daniel is like,
Is he still around?
Yeah. Yeah, he made money this
Fucking
year.
hell.
He that guy's career earnings are like 42 million bucks. He's taken
I,
like 190 snaps or something. I mean, it's
I
ridiculous.
think Case Keenum's gonna end up making like 70 or 80 by the time his career's over, which is insane.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
insane, but good on him. Kyle Crawford for $5. If you're the Bears, how do you replace Mustafa at center? Free agency, draft Lidstrom. They can't
Quickly.
draft. Yeah.
Quickly is the way you replace Mustafa at center.
They can't. Well, no, they have a second round pick and then they don't have a third round pick, do they?
Hang on. I close it?
In my head, I'm thinking, well, you can't draft him in the second, but if their next pick isn't until the fourth.
And I would imagine that Poles is looking at trading down because there isn't anybody they have to have, and they need more picks. They only have 5 total picks this year, and that's rough. They need more than that. They have a lot of holes and not a ton of free agency, salary cap available to them. So I would be looking for them to trade down, and centers are typically undervalued. Like they tend to go later in terms of positional value. So you can get a center that will be better than Mustafa in the third round. And they may do that. There's a kid out of Duke I like a lot. I think he could be good. There's the kid out of Arizona State at center who I like, and he's going to be available even later than that. So I don't think they have to do it up high. Now, if they have to decide what they want to do with their run game, and I think Getsy's going to know that. But if they go outside zone, it's Brian Allen in free agency all day. Like everybody says Jensen. And look, Jensen would be a tone setter. Ryan Poles would love that guy. But he's also going to be the most expensive interior offensive line player going this cycle. And again, the Bears don't have big dollars, and Jensen's going to go early. Allen might, but Allen, if you're running outside zone, is a slam dunk to the Bears. Like you just plug and play that guy and he'd be great. So,
and he doesn't cost a lot.
Theoretically, he might. He's kind of the second center to get, again, just like we talked about with the Steelers, like depending on what you want to do and what you want think your team is who you're going to pick. If they don't choose to focus on OZ as their run scheme, then Allen they won't go racing after Allen and throwing a bunch of cash at him. But if they do, they should, because he's very good. He's proven, and they would just, again, plug him in and not have to think about it.
Yeah. Vignesh Senthil for $5. God, I hope I got that correctly. I apologize if I did not. Thoughts on the UCLA guys? Sean Ryan, Dulcich, Lake, Phillips, Ogbonia, Britton Brown. So the ones that I've watched so far, a little bit of Sean Ryan, which I mean, we saw him up close and personal at UCLA practice. And I personally am all aboard the Sean Ryan is a guard train, a good guard prospect, but a guard. I think he could probably play a long time in the league if he sticks on the interior. I don't necessarily think he's got the feet for tackle, but he might try it at first and then eventually get kicked inside. But I think he's a classic guard conversion candidate. Dulcich is basically just a human moose, probably a mid-round, big body tight end. I'm trying to think of like a comparison.
I just watched Dulcich, and I really wanted to focus on, because there's a lot of things I knew I liked about him, but I wanted to focus on the things he doesn't do well. If your team sends your tight end on streaks down the seam out of either inline alignment or like a tight slot, I'm talking like a 2-yard separation, not a wide slots. Like if your team does that a bunch, you want Dulcich bad, because he does that all day. He's got huge frame. He's really good in a straight line. He's deceptively fast in a straight line. He is like, it's surprising at his size. He's 6'6".
And you just throw it up, and his catch radius is basically a garage door.
But you need a linear route, and it can be straight down the seam. It can be one cross. It can be whatever you want, right? But it is a linear route. If you have like a route with a double move or a hard stop or hard out, he doesn't run those very well. He rounds them off. He doesn't sell the stem. He slows a lot during his cuts, again, just because of his frame. So it really depends on what you want him to do. As a blocker, he's pretty good. He's an angle guy he's not going to drive anybody off the ball, but he does he competes, he fights, and he puts himself in the right place. And he can, again, pivot his hips pretty quickly and sort of wall a guy off and just maul him, get in the way long enough that the back can run right behind him, but don't expect him to drive anybody anywhere. If your team needs that, he's great at those things. If your team needs like real versatility, like a true TE1, if they need somebody that can drive block, Dulcich is not your guy. If you want to send him 20-yard streaks down the field, you're going to get, look at his average yards per catch. It's ridiculous.
For a guy his size.
It's like 16.8 or something. It's way up there. In fact, oops, I still have the tab open. Sorry. For this year, it was 17.3.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous. So again, if you need that stuff, Dulcich is your guy. Lake, we saw both in practice and at Shrine Bowl. One of those defenders that I think is going to be a good heavy slot defender, take on tight ends, has experience playing outside.
The tight end role specifically, I think, is his thing. His thing.
Kyle Phillips, we love. This is a Kyle Phillips Stand podcast. We think he's one of the best slots going. Ogbonia is a beast, and everybody's going to assume that he's, and this sounds terrible, but the last O-name defensive lineman that came out of UCLA is going to assume they're the same. He's not. Ogbonia is fully 325.
Yeah.
Like, he is not the guy that came out last year. And Britton Brown, nobody talking about Britton Brown. When we talked to Kyle Phillips about guys on his team that he really liked, Britton Brown was one of the first 3 names out of his mouth. Like, Britton Brown is a dude, and he's going to be available super late. Everybody focused on Zach Charbonnet, but he was like, Britton Brown's really good, and he's right.
Yeah, Ogbonia in particular, I really want him in an odd front playing nose. I think that's his destiny. I really, really want, because he's so freaking powerful.
I know, he went to the Senior Bowl and just wrecked people.
He reminds me a lot of Fatukasi from the Jets. The nose they had there, just in terms of just sheer pop.
I think he's more, I want to say agile. That's a weird thing to say about a nose.
He's got better feet.
Yeah, I mean, he's more dynamic. Fatukasi was all about like get into you and push hard, and he was good at that. Like, that was his happy place. I feel like Ogbonia can do that, and then a little something outside of that. I like him as a player. So a lot of good guys in that group. UCLA is a bunch of good guys, and they had a bunch of good guys go back. Charbonnet went back. Dorian Thompson-Robinson went back.
They got some more transfers coming in.
One of their defensive backs we really like went back. Like, they returned a lot of talent. So it's going to be, for the next few years, the UCLA pipeline is going to be for real.
And their recruiting, I think, is getting a lot better too, because Chip just got a new contract. So the stability plus being in LA is like such a huge advantage for recruiting that people don't understand yet. Like, I know USC is getting all the hype for like all the 5-stars they're bringing and everything like that, but like UCLA's got money too. Yeah. There's going to be some kids going to UCLA.
Yeah, our friend at UCLA that had us out to practice told us what they spend on nutrition for just the football program per year.
Yeah,
it's actually like the highest budget in CFB for nutrition per year for a football program. Like, you have every advantage if you go to UCLA. Like, you have great practice facilities. You obviously have a top flight coach. You're going to be playing with really good talent, as evidenced by that whole list. And they're going to give you every opportunity to improve yourself, whether it's diet, nutrition, exercise, rest, sleep therapy. Chip has always been on the leading edge of all of that and looking at it holistically. So they're in a really good place, and you're going to see a really solid pipeline of players continue to come out of UCLA,
especially now that NIL is a thing.
I know that's your thing. You got to go be the NIL coordinator at UCLA. That's your next gig. I'll be your assistant.
They got the money for it. I'll tell you that much. Yeah, people don't realize, like, UCLA boosters, they got deep pockets.
Yeah.
Optic, LOL, JK, 60. What a name, man. What a name. Yeah. Optic for $10 Australian, I think.
I don't know. No, I thought Australian was AUS. I could be wrong.
I'll have to research that. $10 in some form of currency. Appreciate that.
Thank you for every one of them.
Thank you for every one of them. Since running backs aren't the biggest priority for teams to spend draft capital, we'll ever see one again
go
go
in the
top
top 10.
If Saquon was the last great white whale, in terms of like the Moby Dick of prospects, speed, agility, strength, all that kind of stuff. And even he broke down and quote unquote wasn't worth it. Not really because of his own fault. Again, injuries happen. If Saquon didn't work out, ain't nobody taking a running back top 10.
Yeah, and it's really about how teams are using them. And you look at even the best, if you look at the best running backs out there, one, what they're producing as an overall percentage of the offense, and two, how they're doing it. There are no more bell cows. Like, it doesn't exist. Everybody's at least in tandem, and many teams are using all three. And you need to, with an 18-game season, which is coming, like, running back just isn't a position where you can put people out there for any length of time. And I mean, more than a couple of years at the old, 400, 450 carry mark. Like, it's not happening. Guys are getting 250, 225, but there's three of them. So that equals your total of 700 or whatever carries you're giving in a now pass centric offense. So even the best, I mean, you look at some of the best names, like they all have a very good understudy who is equally skilled. I'm looking at the Dalvins of the world. I'm looking at, Dallas. I'm looking at even Jonathan Taylor, right? There are three other really good backs in that stable. And that's the model you're going to see. Chicago with, they got Khalil Herbert. I wouldn't be surprised if they draft another one this year with the possibility that Montgomery won't be re-signed, and run all three this year, run Montgomery and Herbert and whoever they get. So just with the way they're being used, that priority has dropped so much. And I see people like reaching for backs in like the second round, even now, like mock drafts. And I'm like, just wait 4 rounds. You can get a player that's 90% of the player you're talking about. And he's only going to be used as 1/3.
Zaquandre White with like 90 career carries. Because
Yeah,
he's like a linebacker
fresh
convert. Like,
and I was looking at Zonovan McKnight, Bam Knight. Like that guy is a great running back. He's again, depends on what you want your running backs to do, but he is super capable. He's going in like the 5th, the 6th in mock drafts right now, and that's going to happen. And there's a bunch of guys down there. They're all super talented. Ty Chandler, who we saw at the Shrine Bowl, had a super productive year at UNC. Ty's probably not going before the 5th.
Yeah.
And he would be a great back to put in your stable and have as one of 3, like super productive right off the bat. You can get him in the 5th or maybe even the 6th. Like, just taking him in the top 10. No, there's just too many other priorities.
No, I mean, a lot of the best backs in the league, Dalvin, 2nd round pick, Chubb, 2nd round pick, Jonathan Taylor, 2nd round pick. Were they one of the 32 best players in their draft class? Yeah. But they still went in the 2nd round for a reason.
It's about positional value for sure. Yeah.
Just vibing for 750. Thank you. First series super chat. Opinion on Vikings hires. I need to know if I can calm down in the 4th quarter from now on when we have a lead. Yes, I think you can calm down.
more than you're used to. Your stress level should come down, but
you're still a Vikings fan. You're still going to be like having an existential crisis every time Kirk steps on the field, because that's what Vikings fans do. It's in your blood. But I think it'll be a little bit more.
It'll be better. It baby steps, 1% better every time, just like us.
The key question is, are they extending Kirk for what he wants, which is $40 million a year?
I just like the running back thing. I don't think so. Like, we'll see what O'Connell says, but
he does have leverage on them right now, because who else are they going to get?
Yeah, well, no, but I mean, anyways, that's a much longer conversation. We should have it. We should put one of those on the Bootleg Clips channel just about that. Like, yeah, for sure.
So I think you definitely solved a big problem with your front office and coaching hires. You still have one more hurdle to cross, and we'll see what they do. See what they do. Yeah. Ryan for $5. Thank you, Ryan. Not saying it'll happen, but imagine Christian Watson, who I know Brett loves. Well, EJ loves him too.
Now, don't put him in San Francisco, especially because Brett loves him, and people that Brett loves that get put in San Francisco don't get used. So do not do that to Christian Watson. It would be fun.
So Brandon Ayuk can go from 50 targets to 30. Just what I love.
Yeah, exactly. No, there are many other places for Watson. It would be fun to see him reunited with his college QB, a la Chase and Burrow. But Christian Watson is so wildly underrated right now, and just be comfortable in that knowledge, because a week from now it's going to be over. that bubble is going to be burst completely. The whole Christian Watson's going to go in like the 4th or the 5th thing by after the combine, you're going to start legitimately hearing about him in the top of the 2nd round and even back into the 1st if the fit's right. He's so good, and I know a lot of people are saying, oh, usage, production, NDSU. This is a guy you just watch him. Yeah. Just watch him. He's going to go real high. If he's still available at the end of the 3rd, I don't know what I'm going to do with myself. I'll be beside myself. It's wrong.
Well, if the Bears pass on him in the 2nd, you're going to be beside yourself.
Yeah, just don't you put that on me, Ricky Bobby.
They passed on, so when they passed on Winfield and your heart just
dropped. Don't do that. Anyways, yeah, Christian Watson, great player, tons of fun, super graceful, great size. Things to learn for sure, but he's got every chance to be very, very good.
Vignesh returning for $2. Thank you, Vignesh. Thoughts on Viking staff? Forgot to add on.
We covered that one.
Yeah, we really like it. Both the front office and the coaching hires.
It's better. Let's put it that way.
It's better.
And everything else will be determined on the field, but it's better. You're starting off in a better place.
Yeah. So thank you, Vignesh. Isaac for $1. Thank you, Isaac. Really
happy
appreciate
bootleg
that.
Day.
Happy bootleg day. Autumn returning for $2. Hi, Autumn. Also, I'm still mad y'all made me a Bears fan too. Hey,
you're gonna be for a while. It's getting better again. It's on the way up, Autumn. It's okay, but we'll take the heat for that one.
You're not allowed to be mad. You made a Super Bowl. Now you didn't win the Super Bowl, but you made the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So you still have to be happy about that. A successful season for you. So at least you have one good team to root for. Just be excited about the future, at least for one of your teams.
Things are looking up.
Sorry,
Tane. Okay, cool. Favorite coaching hires. Thanks for saying we're awesome. We appreciate that.
Also for the €20. Appreciate that too.
Yeah, favorite coaching hires. Well, Patrick Graham we talked about in Las Vegas. We both really like that one. Dable's coaching staff is chock full. The Dable hire itself is good, we think. But his coaching staff is chock full. We talked about McDaniel and the Dolphins and his staff, which is kind of more underrated, doesn't have the name recognition of Dable's staff. Like the Eberflus hire. Who else got picked up? Hackett.
McDaniels. The Hackett hiring I like. Hamza, let me know who your team is. I'm curious if you have one that hired a coach.
Can we talk about the ones that didn't happen that we wish did?
McDaniel happened. Like the McDaniel hire.
Yeah.
Well, there's McDaniel and McDaniels. I probably like the McDaniel hire more than the McDaniels hire. Nothing against Josh McDaniels, but
Mike McD. I don't know. Generally, I think most of them have been pretty good.
There weren't any that really stuck out to me of I wouldn't do that.
Well, Lovey, I mean,
that was kind of a unique.
It is the Texans are unique. They are. They are unique. Yeah. But that was maybe the one I'd be like, what are you doing? And letting Cully go in the first place again after what he accomplished with where he was. But I don't know. I really liked Patrick Graham one. I jumped up and down when that happened because they have a lot of good defensive players, and I can't wait to see how he uses them. Probably Dable to the Giants, just because they
the
needed it.
He's put together too.
Yeah, they needed it. They really needed that, and Giants have been on hard times for a while that way, and it gives them a ton of hope. So,
which, by the way, the Mike Kafka hire is so good for the Giants.
Oh, for the Giants, yeah.
I think that's a really good hire, coordinator, and getting Wink as DC, I think is good too.
No, it's a great staff. They don't have very many. They have very few excuses to not be better soon.
At this point, it's like, God, if Daniel's not succeeding now, when will it happen? It's like they've
he's got.
upgraded a lot.
Yeah, Peterson hire's not bad either. Somebody's put Doug
That's
Peterson.
right. Yeah,
that's not bad.
Totally forgot about Doug Peterson. I mean, it's an upgrade.
Well, it happened
over what they
late.
had last year. Yeah,
happened late.
So thank you again for the 20 euros, Hobbs. I really appreciate that. Isaac for $2. Steelers draft QB this year or build up the O line. It depends on who's available. If Malik Willis is there, 100% take Malik Willis. I don't think he will be, but if he's there, take Malik Willis and then use every other pick on offensive line. But get the dude with talent in the door at least, and then use your other assets because they got receivers.
Yeah,
they just need a little bit more.
And the other thing is rookie QBs are never going to be great. Like, it doesn't matter how good you are. You go back to Justin Herbert, great as a rookie QB, didn't do well overall as a team. Like, broke almost not every, but many rookie QB records, had the best rookie QB season ever, still wasn't very good overall. So you got to get that season out of the way sometime. Might as well be this season if that guy's available. But yes, need line 2 also. So it really does come back down to how the draft falls and who's available. And if you're dead sold that you've got a great offensive line prospect there, or, a guy that might be a clipboard holder in 3 years at best, take the great offensive line prospect.
Because keep in mind, the Steelers have before they even do restructures, they have about $30 million in space. When you include restructures, it's even more than that. They could go do a pretty sizable investment in offensive line in this year's free agent class and still take a quarterback and then still get depth guys, which they got some depth guys last year, actually some serviceable starting guys last year. And they could still double down or even triple down if you include free agency and getting offensive line. But
yeah, I saw Jimmy to the Steelers thing the other day, and I was like,
maybe, but I thought you're still treading water as a franchise.
Yeah, you're absolutely treading water. It is a treading water move, but it's a whole lot better than all this Rudolph is going to carry us stuff. That's
yeah, no,
that's Pittsburgh. That's Pittsburgh off-season ink being spilled. That's all that is.
Lax Max for $10. Thank you, Lax Max. How do you think Garrett Wilson fits with the Browns at 13? I hadn't considered that.
Who's throwing it to him?
I think they're still going to stick with Baker because he got hurt.
I'm not 100% sure.
Unless Aaron Rodgers is sending them, little doodle notes in class saying, "Will you please be mine?" Or maybe even Russell Wilson, but I don't think Russ is going to Cleveland because
Russ isn't going to Cleveland. But and I don't really think Aaron is either. But I'm not sure that the run it back approach, it might be their best option.
Who are they getting that's better?
Well, that's the thing. I don't think they want to. They might. Absolutely. For all the reasons you said. I don't think they want to. Like, I think they're kind of done. They kind of know where they're not going to go with Baker. And so they're thinking about next. And how next comes to pass, whether it's a bridge move with one of the veterans that's out there, or whether it's, a big swing, we'll see. But I think they know that the Baker thing is done. Now, they might have to carry it forward another year, kind of like the Vikings with Kirk, in my opinion. But I don't think they want to. I would be surprised if they don't get aggressive in doing something.
I think they're going to do the same exact thing that Philly did. Wide receiver first round to give your current guy who's struggling another weapon, because it sounds like Jarvis is gone and Odell is gone. So they got to restock the cupboard anyway, which we like DPJ, but
and
still need more.
Higgins is free agent too.
They got dudes, but 3 of them might not be there. And the other one's still young. So restock the cupboard in the first round, just like the Eagles did. Not saying it worked because they took Jalen Reagor over Justin Jefferson.
And Njoku's a free agent too.
Oh, they're bringing him back for sure. They're bringing back Njoku. They'll let
Hooper.
They'll let Hooper go before they let Njoku go, almost guaranteed.
Well, they're both free this year, so they'll have to pay somebody.
But the Eagles in the second round of that year took Jalen Hurts just in case, and that ended up being a pretty good pick.
And I think that's kind of what we might see from Cleveland here. And that my people who are big Baker backers might be super surprised by that. I'm not going to be at all. I will not bat an eye if they do something up high to start looking at the post Baker plan.
Because I don't I have not watched enough of the quarterbacks to know like this dude for sure. The only one that I know for sure like is too talented not to go in the first round or is Malik Willis and probably Ritter. But all the other ones, it's like if you ask me, it's like, oh, Sam Howell guaranteed as a first round pick. I don't know, probably, but I don't know.
Probably, but because of need, not necessarily because of who he is. And unfortunately, Howell is very much like Baker.
But he'll be cheaper. And so it's
absolutely
like
be cheaper, but he's his profile, especially since he started running in his senior year and ran very, very well, like had a tremendous season rushing the ball. I know more than one analyst that said, that's my comp for him is Baker. I'm like, okay.
Yeah. So I just, Garrett Wilson
tough.
at 13, quarterback in the second round, I do not think is a far-fetched scenario.
Not at
quarterback in the first round, receiver in the second round, I think is a little bit more far-fetched.
Well, they're going to need weapons anyways. They're losing 3 weapons at wide receiver if Landry goes. They're losing at least one of their 3-headed monster at tight end, maybe 2, depending on how the offers go. I doubt it again with the strength of the draft class because people will know that they don't need to put out big money for tight ends because they can go get 1 or even 2 in this draft class. But they're looking at Cincinnati in their own division, right, and going, our weapons used to look really, really good. They don't compared to that anymore, and we're losing a bunch. So they know that there's going to be a big focus on adding playmakers in Cleveland.
Hunter King for $2. What am I missing on Malik Willis? Cannon arm, great mobility, not there yet to start, but you're not drafting him for
close.
Yeah, he's not even close, but you're not drafting him for what he is in 2022. You're drafting him for what he'll be in 2024 if you have faith in your coach. So
yeah, it's a stretch.
That's literally it.
Like if you're saying I don't see it, you're right. You don't see it. What you see right now when you watch Malik Willis tape, and I watched some the other night because I was watching a defender I was watching UAB because I was watching the Edge, and they played Liberty, and so you can't help but not watch a little Malik when you're watching UAB defense versus Liberty offense, and he's way away from being ready to start as a pro mentally, like in fully understanding how to leverage an offense. He's a long way. Raw. I don't even raw might not even cover it. But then you see him just the raw physical tools of what he can do, and he'll unleash the ball, and you're like, got it. And he is, and I'm going to be careful saying this. I do not believe Malik Willis is a running back. I'm not saying that. I'm saying as he tucks and runs, he is more talented than all but a handful of running backs in this class.
Some people are saying, oh, just put him at receiver. And it's like, well, he's not a receiver. He's a quarterback.
No, but when he tucks and runs, he is legitimately more dangerous than all but 6, maybe 7 running backs in this class.
I'm trying to think of the
good running backs.
The last quarterback that I saw come out, which conveniently the narrative is going to be very similar for, was Lamar.
Yeah.
Where people were like, well, Lamar is not a quarterback. And it's like, Lamar is not a quarterback that you think a quarterback should look like.
Right.
But he's a quarterback.
Yeah, but Lamar was light years ahead mentally in terms of offense.
Well, he ran a pro style system.
He ran Earhart Perkins at Louisville, and was very efficient within that system. Malik is, Hunter, if you watch him, or have watched him, the most likely outcome of a Liberty offensive play is that Malik will pull it down after looking at his first read. Now, what he does after that, he could rush for 50 yards. He could roll out and roll back out the other way and then throw it 75 yards on a line. Again, all backyard stuff. But the most likely thing that happens during a Liberty offensive passing play is that Malik will go back, look at his first read and pull it down. And then it's sort of choose your own adventure after that. He made it come out well so many times. And that's a credit just to those traits, to those physical skills. But if you're thinking this guy is not ready to play quarterback in the NFL, when you watch him, you're correct. Like, he's not. If somebody drafts him and puts him out there week 1, against an NFL defense that's, bent on destroying him, as they all are, he's going to struggle. If you think Justin Fields struggled in year one, and he did,
struggle.
Malik is going to struggle. He will have some of those highlight plays, but in terms of his team coming anywhere close to winning or making them better, nah, you need some time, and you're betting that you can take those supernatural tools and make them into a Josh Allen or a Mahomes.
Well, that's the flip
else.
side of it, is when people are like, okay, well, how are you confident that he's so raw, but he's still going to work out? And it's like, okay, well, it's the same confidence that the Bills had in Josh Allen, the Ravens had Lamar Allen, the Chiefs had in Lamar Jackson, the Chiefs had in Patrick Mahomes. At some point, you're not just betting on the talent, you're betting on the person, because the person has to want to get better. And Malik Willis, as a person, in terms of work ethic, in terms of wanting to be great, A+ across the board. He's a great kid. And so you're saying, okay, do I believe that this 21, 22-year-old kid that is an extraordinary human being and also extraordinary talented, but is nowhere near being ready yet, do I believe in that person with that talent eventually getting to that point?
Yeah.
Do I believe they'll put in the work to do it? And the answer is yeah, just like Lamar did, just like Allen did, just like Mahomes did.
Yeah, you got to ask yourself, it's very much like, how did you feel about Trey Lance?
Yeah, Trey Lance was raw as fuck.
But run the slider back even a little bit farther. Like, Malik has played more football than Trey Lance did, but I'd say in terms of his development, he's not as far along as Trey was.
Yeah.
So you have to push that slider in terms of readiness back even farther. But in terms of physical skills, like Malik's physical skills, and Trey's are amazing, Malik's might be even better.
Yeah.
And that's saying something. So it's just a more extreme bet in every way. Less ready, but has even more physical on tap. So it's a fascinating thing is to see where he's going to go. And a lot of people are going to be talking about it for a long time.
Jared Cole for $5. EJ, if you owned an NFL team, how long would Brett last as your GM based on his hits and misses and analysis?
I'm going to go with your profile pick there. No, I would have Brett on staff for many things. And yes, he could come into my office and tell me what he thought of prospects and where I thought he was wrong, because that's some of the best conversations I get to have right now. I would not want those to end. Would I give him the card on draft day? I'd have to shake the magic 8-ball. Signs point to no.
Because I would be running up there. It's like, EJ, there's this really good safety that I want to take right now. And you're going to say, no, Brett, it's not.
Well,
we're at 7th overall. You can't do that.
Brett's evaluations are really good, and I like them because a lot of times we do line up, we do agree. But when we're different, I really appreciate what he sees that I don't see, or what he values that I don't see, because none of us get this right all the time, or even most of the time. The weakness, if I'm critiquing his weakness in choices, it's that he gets overexcited about rookies.
Oh,
and
yeah.
You'll hear this during the divisional preview shows. He's like, this guy could set the team mark for combined yards from scrimmage. And I'm like, he's 4th on the depth chart as a wide receiver. He's not doing that. And he's like, why? And yeah, he's really good. And we see guys every year that are really good. Anybody that makes the league is really good. But it's about knowing how that balances out. And
every once in a while, I hit on Justin Jefferson, and I'm like, see,
that's right. No, I would have Brett on my staff for sure. If he wouldn't be my GM, he wouldn't be my GM. We'd have to come up with a really good title for you that nobody knew what it meant, but you got to do what you wanted.
Just Tape Goblin.
Brett Coleman, Tape Goblin. Happy to meet you.
Yeah, that's literally my job.
That'd be great.
Evan Kearney for €20. Thank you, Evan. Appreciate that. Much love from Evan, the Irish Bears fan who lives in EJ's Twitter mentions. No real questions. Just got to say thanks for the content and give props to the best NFL content on the internet. I appreciate that, Evan. I really do. With the third Irish name, Kearney. The other third of Ireland.
Because it's either, what was it, O'Connell, O'Rourke, or Kearney? That's it?
Yeah, that's it. It's the only Irish name.
And somebody in the comments, not a super chat, said, lads, come to Ireland. We're
We want to.
We're thinking about it. Like we want to make that part of the swing when we come to Germany. Yes, we realize.
Can you imagine an NFL game in Dublin?
Yeah, I can actually imagine that. But I would love to come by, see my family again. It's been quite a few years since I've been to see them. And my partner here has never been to Ireland, which is a sin. So we got to erase that.
Haven't been to Scotland or Ireland.
Well, goodness.
I know.
We'll have to fix that.
And I'm Scottish and Irish by heritage.
I know.
Actually, my family has a castle in Scotland.
Well, that we have to go to because hell, I mean, why wouldn't we?
I'm part of the Hume clan. Many Scots in here know the Hume clan. Let's see. Ian Kingston for $5. Oh, the dogs are going crazy upstairs, huh?
Yeah, somebody's coming to kill us. It's probably the Amazon guy. Stuff got dropped off yesterday, as it did at your house, and this is what we get. This is the fierce hounds defending the premises.
Ian Kingston for $5. Bets that Howie whiffs on all three of his firsts would be classic Eagles. About as bad as the Flyers trading everything. Never.
Yeah, this is basically Cubs fans before they won the World Series.
Yeah, I mean, the Eagles just did win a Super Bowl like 5 years ago.
Don't tell them that.
But that's the thing is you wouldn't know it based on how Eagles fans talk that they just won a Super Bowl.
Come to Australia.
We're trash. We've always been trash.
Maybe it is trash. I think the A is correct because we just got another one that says come to Australia. So I thought AUS was. That? Anyways, yeah, we would love to go to Australian youth football in Australia. That would be a dream trip. That would be amazing. Australia is way up on my bucket list, like probably number one.
Just don't put your hand in any dark corners or shoe boxes.
There are many things in Australia that can kill you. Many.
Like everything. Yeah. In terms of how he whiffed on all three of his first, I mean, he didn't whiff on Devonta Smith. He didn't whiff on the Bama center they took.
Okay, you want my outside Philly sort of flyer take, not flyer the hockey team. My draft flyer for Philly. Howie gets another pick for Dillard. It's not going to be a first, but
no.
But he
probably will.
He'll bank another pick for Dillard. He's gonna.
It'll be like a fourth.
Might be a third. If somebody had a great grade on him, low third, like compensatory third for Dillard, somebody's gonna see that as a value because I liked him coming out.
A lot of people
actually like him more than Abraham Lucas, who's coming out of the same school this year, who I also think is good, but I thought Dillard was better. And he hasn't worked out. And again, people talk, we talk about it, system and fit. I think Howie's going to flip Dillard for a pick. So,
yeah. And then use that as ammo. Because then
I wouldn't be at all sad if Ryan Poles bit. Like for a third, I would be sad.
Fourth,
I would take it.
See what you got.
Yeah, exactly. Because who's he displacing on the Bears roster? And the answer is nobody.
Because then I want Tevin to be at right, to be honest.
I think a lot of people do. And you just bring him in and say, hey, if you spend a fourth round pick and he turns into a functional swing, like him and Borum, between him and Borum, you get a functional swing. Like,
why not?
Bonus.
Why not? Autumn for $2. Thoughts on Devonta Wyatt? Really want him in City. Oh, we love Devonta Wyatt.
You're going to hear more from us about Devonta Wyatt early next week. So hold that thought, Autumn.
He's short version. He's really fucking good.
Yeah.
Evan Kearney for €5. Thank you, Evan. Never mind. Thought of a question. Opinions on new Bears front office and coaching staff structure. Sorry, I've already asked.
Yeah, we summarized. We'll summarize it for you again. Ryan Poles, really good choice. Former offensive lineman himself, came from Kansas City where they understand the value of offensive line. That's a huge win. Also, I think is going to bring a more balanced approach to draft choices and not always trade up and mortgage future. That was a Ryan Pace special. So that's great. And Eberflus, I think, is a good choice as head coach. Kind of excited about the OC as well. And that's, again, just because the Bears have seen nothing functional for offense in a couple of years. So pretty low bar.
My short version is I am more excited for Justin Fields' career now than I was last year.
Yes.
So, and that was a pretty high bar to clear. So I'm feeling pretty good about it. Craig Smith, the flight deck for $5.
I saw this one. Yeah.
Here's the thought. Staley really values the safety position. Could you see him going do it all? Daxton Hill at 17. That's probably about the earliest I could see Daxton Hill go. Like, absolutely.
I love it as a fit. As a value, I'm not sure I love it, but as a fit, 100%. Like, I would love to see Daxton Hill being coached by Staley. I think everybody right now is penciling in some kind of interior defensive line help for the Chargers. Like, that's
the thing is we're looking at Jordan Davis, Devonta Wyatt versus Daxton Hill. Like, they have to go IDL.
Yeah, but I think of those guys. Well, anyways, it'll be a fascinating. But I think that's the pencil right now. That's the sort of chalk pick for draft Twitter for the Chargers is IDL, right? And it would be tough. But if he was going to go to a great spot, that's one of the great spots where somebody would understand how to use that versatility fully.
And I'm still not convinced he wouldn't be there for them in the second round anyway.
Totally possible, but I think Hill is one of the players the league likes better than the public.
I think DJ put it best. Like, the gap between player 1 to player 60 this year.
Oh, he's
very narrow.
He's not wrong. And again, that's why I don't want somebody like Pace saying, I got to package some picks and move up, because the answer is no, you don't. You should drop back if you can. But nobody's really going to want to let you do that, because nobody really wants to move up, because they know they can sit and get one of their picks as well. It's going to be a tough year to trade back. I would love to see Poles do it, but it's very difficult. It's going to be even tougher this year with all that depth.
Yeah. On to Sixth Soldier for $10. Appreciate that. I want to start off by saying I'm a huge Raider fan. I want to get your thoughts on Derek Carr. Also would like to get your thoughts on how you guys would fix our offense and defense. Well, you brought in Patrick Graham, which I think goes a long way towards fixing the defense. That's probably the most important part. Getting more corners, I think, is prudent, particularly outside corners. I think is prudent. Guys that can hold up in man coverage, because I think you're going to be blitzing a lot more. Linebacker, they got some young guys at linebacker. I kind of want to see how they shake out before we start throwing any more pieces into that pile. Interior defensive line rotation, I think, is prudent for them. I like the edge pieces, but getting another one just to give guys a breather. So really, it's mostly like depth and then outside corner in terms of talent on defense. Offense, receiver again, offensive line depth, and another receiver. Carr, I think Carr is perfectly fine for them. I think there's a lot of quarterbacks that are worse than Derek Carr. And I think if
2/3 of them,
most of them are worse than Carr. If they move on from Carr and they don't immediately replace him with Russell Wilson or Aaron Rodgers, they will be in a world of hurt, because there's nobody else on the market that's as good as him. It's just wouldn't be a smart move. So yeah.
I could actually see the Raiders cutting both of their inside linebackers to save cap, Littleton and Kwiatkowski, which were both big signings for them money wise. And the Giants cutting Blake Martinez because he had a great year and then a not great year. And if the Giants cut Blake Martinez and the Raiders clean house, Blake Martinez is a Raider.
Him next to Divine Diablo.
Yeah, but Patrick Graham will bring in Blake Martinez just as a coach on the field who knows the system, as somebody that has had great success in his defense. And it would only happen if they clean out both Littleton and Kwiatkowski, but I could see that happening. I could see the Raiders saying, hey, we did this. It's sunk cost. It's not what we want. Not saying it will happen. I personally would like to see Littleton rebound, but he is not. Neither one of those guys has really panned out for them in the way that they hoped.
If they do go linebacker in the draft, keep an eye on Leo Chanel from Wisconsin for them. Perfect system fit. Yeah. Patrick Graham would love him, but probably a day 2 guy for them, value-wise. Bailey Nichols for $2. Appreciate that, Bailey. Thoughts on Kelvin Joseph as a starter next year? Really, really talented. Flashed a bunch. I would not be surprised if, projecting anybody is like, oh, he's going to be a lockdown starter. That's tough to say. But I think if he is a full-time starter in 2022, it will be a better situation for them than what they had in 2021. I'll just say that.
Yeah. I would say early returns lead me to be hopeful about that.
Because he's really, really talented. Like, really talented.
Yeah, and I think he actually played better in limited opportunities than I thought he might. And I didn't think he would play terribly, but he flashed even more than I thought he might. So again, early returns are positive. Like I'd say, like let's see more. And I wouldn't be terribly afraid of that. So yeah.
Yeah, because right now, let's see, who's their projected starting corners going into next year? I think, let's see, so it's Diggs, and then Jordan Lewis is still signed, and then
They play him inside, not outside.
Yeah, so it's Kelvin Joseph or Anthony Brown. Yeah, I go Kelvin Joseph.
Yeah,
as the other guy, across
Yep.
from Diggs, which Diggs itself is a whole different conversation. But no, I would really like that. I think it'd be a good pickup for them, or a good decision by them to start him full time in 2022. Bailey Nichols again for $5. Thank you, Bailey. Got to say, Seattle now has Shanahan wide zone and Fangio's quarters in place, and it's remarkable knowing where they were just over a year ago. I mean, they're moving to where the league is going, and those are the two, in terms of success rate, those are the two systems that are dominating the most in the league, which is Fangio style defense and Shanahan style offense. So do whatever you can to get both. And they did. And I think they made a good call. Do you have any particular thoughts about?
I do. I'm just really happy that Ken Norton Jr. is no longer the DC. I saw he got a linebackers coaching gig, which I'm happy about for him. Yeah, college. Went back home again. But I love the Clint Hurt Sean Desai pairing. In fact, I'm hopping on Field Goals podcast tomorrow to talk about that with Brandon Scholes, the guy that runs that, because both have Bears connections. Clint Hurt was a defensive line coach, and Sean Desai was last year's defensive coordinator, but has been with the Bears for like 6 years. So he reached out to me and said, "Hey, do you want to come on and talk about the new defensive brain trust in Seattle, because they're the old Chicago brain trust?" And I'm like, yeah, I'm really happy for what Seahawks fans are going to get to see out of the defensive side of the ball, because it's been a bit disjointed. It's been kind of a mess. And I'm just not a Ken Norton Jr. fan as a coordinator. I think he's a good coach, but he's not a great coordinator, and he doesn't adapt quickly enough. And that's really cost the Seahawks a lot lately over the last couple of years. And I'm glad again that they just decided to make that change. And I love Sean Desai. He's super smart. So again, I'm hopeful about that move. I'm looking forward to it, because I think there are some players on the Hawks roster right now who are going to be real happy about that pairing, and how they get used and how they get featured.
Yeah. I will say, by the way, we were only advertising we were going to go till 2:00 Pacific, but I wanted to get through all the super chats that were sent before 2. So I know that EJ has some engagements he has to get to, and I do as well. But I want to get through all the super chats that were sent before our advertising.
Before 2.
Before 2.
All right, race.
So we'll kind of speed round it. John Woods for €2. What can the Raiders do at offensive guard? Zion Johnson.
Bang. Or Dylan Parham if they go a little bit later.
Either way. There's a lot of guard talent they're going to be able to get, both in the first round and after. But thank you for €2. Steven for $5. Thank you, Steven. Best way to reach out to you guys if I want to have you on YouTube shows and podcasts in the future. DM for EJ. For me, probably just replying to a tweet that I send out, because I think it'll be easier.
Start with replying to a tweet for both of us, but I'll probably just send you a DM, Steve.
Yeah. Let's see. Julie for $5. Oh, that's a currency I'm not familiar with, but I appreciate your dollars. I'm not sure what currency that is, but thank you for the $5 of it.
Probably not dollars if you don't know.
Thank you for the $5 of it. Yes. Love your work. Happy bootleg day. Oh, Switzerland. Okay. Oh, it's francs. Swiss francs, right? I think so. Swiss francs. What do you think is the biggest need for my beloved 49ers? Oh, man.
Not picking somebody Brett likes.
That's so tough. Biggest need for 49ers. That's the thing, is they're not really I mean, I guess you could go corner help.
low-key defensive line stuff because they're probably going to lose Arden Key. He's a free agent. Maurice Hurst is a free agent. All the Raiders guys that got picked and went up the road to San Francisco are leaving. Those guys were contributors. Again, it's not like necessarily they need a starter right away, but they're going to need some depth there. Jakisi Tart is a free agent, so maybe a safety 2. Somebody that works really well in zone and likes to thump. That's Tart's sort of MO, and he's really good at it.
Yeah.
They
O-line depth, because they were struggling at tackle when they were taking injuries there.
Sure. Yeah, a good swing, but I mean, who doesn't need a good swing tackle at just about every point? Those are, I would say low-key defensive line, inside or outside, and then safety. And that's probably about it because they just run running backs through in cycles. They always have 6 of them at any given time that they can call up.
It's such a good team. They don't really need
no
anything.
And honestly, if Jimmy moves on, like backup quarterback,
which I mean, Bailey Zapp, mid-round pick, fine. Well, he's not going to go high.
No, but I
tell me when you watch Bailey Zapp, you don't see a Kyle Shanahan quarterback.
Well, maybe, but I would hope not. Let's put it that way. Anyways, we'll reserve thoughts since we're speed rounding on Bailey Zapp till later.
Yeah. John for $2. Thank you, John. Will Jags fans regret not getting Leftwich?
Because they got Peterson, I would say that less. If they had gotten some of the other coaching candidates that they were rumored to be after, I would say absolutely, because Leftwich I think would have been like knocked down flat out better than all of them. Peterson, look, you're getting a guy that won the Super Bowl not that many years ago, and he understands modern offense, and Trevor's going to be way better this year. Like, Trevor's going to be way better because Peterson's there this year. So maybe some still. I think Leftwich ceiling might be higher if we're talking about floors and ceilings as coaches, but like Peterson's a Super Bowl winning head coach. You didn't forget all that stuff. It wasn't that long ago. It's not like 10 years ago.
I'm cautiously optimistic. Again, would I have hired Leftwich over Peterson? Yes. Does that objectively make Peterson a bad hire? No. If that's the best way to phrase it, I think either way they're doing okay.
Yeah.
Zachy Beatty McCarrow for £5. Pounds. I got it correct. Thoughts on the Lions' possibilities next year? Praying we get Muma and Brisker or Petre in the second, third, and Olave drops to the end of the first. Ooh.
That would be a really nice combination, wouldn't it?
Yeah, that's the dream draft.
Yeah. No, that'd be fantastic.
I'm all aboard. Absolutely.
Yeah, I don't dislike any of those 4 players, and I don't necessarily like I don't dislike the value. It's interesting between Brisker and Petro as to where they're going to go. Muma's really interesting too, because I think he's top
4 or 5 linebackers.
He's not outside 4 for me. He's 4th at worst. He might be 3rd. Again, I haven't gotten all the way through, but it really depends on flavor, right? And the Lions have a guy that doesn't necessarily move like that, but is on the heavier side in Barnes. Muma is more mobile and can do more things. But if they want a 2 sides of the coin thing with somebody that's super mobile, they could go for somebody else at the inside linebacker spot. Olave, I would hate it because it would be Olave in the division, not to the Bears. But I would love it for Detroit because he's a great wide receiver, and he's going to be productive right away. He plays like a pro. It's the easiest way to say that.
Yeah, I think if you presented this to Brad Holmes, he'd offer you a job. Just saying. He'd be like, yes.
Just got to get it done. Just got to get it done.
Bailey for $2. Thank you, Bailey. Carson Strong in the second for the Browns then.
I don't hate it.
I could see it.
I don't hate it at all. And I don't think the folks in Cleveland would hate it either. What you would end up with is not too much of a stretch. an offense that looked a little bit like what New England did with Mac, but better because the playmakers, even if the exodus continues, are better than what New England had almost across the board. And Strong, although I don't think he's as good as Mac, would play a very similar style and role as a distributor. And he's smart about that. He's got a good arm, would play well outside in that stadium. I don't hate it. It's not necessarily like, oh, lock what I would do, but I think there would be a huge outcry. I think it might be much ado about nothing. I think
there was a huge outcry in Philly when they took Hurts in the second round too, and look who's starting now.
There always is.
So you could sell me on that pick. You could absolutely sell me on it.
I would not hate it.
Let's see. Storm for $10. Thank you, Storm. What should Dallas do since they have no cap and a QB I'm not sure can win? Well, they're at where they're at.
Sorry, Dallas can't win with Dak?
I think Dallas can't win with McCarthy. I don't think it's a Dak issue.
Yeah, I'm like, if you don't think Dak can win, I'm wondering what you think you might be able to get in any reasonable sense as a quarterback that is better than that, because Dak is real good. There's nobody better in the draft.
In free agency, again, unless you're replacing him with Rodgers.
Yeah.
Or Russ, which
and
you're not.
I wouldn't even say Russ right now. I would say Dak and Russ are different, but very similar at this point in their careers as to level. I would say that would be more of a lateral move, whereas Rodgers, just from a quarterbacking talent standpoint, would be an upgrade, but like he's the only one. Other than that, like the no cap thing is more troublesome, but like you're good with Dak. Like it's the same thing we said about Carr, right? If you got rid of Dak, you'd understand real quick what the other side looks like, and it's not pretty. Dak's pretty shiny at quarterback. Like I think probably 20 teams would take Dak.
More than that, I think.
Yeah.
If we're being honest about it. I think.
Well, again, if guys betting on potential of
if Dallas, how about this? If Dallas went to Vegas and offered a straight up trade Carr for Dak.
If Vegas was smart, they'd take Dak.
They'd take Dak. They would. So that's what we're talking about here. Now, in terms of who's at fault in Dallas, it's McCarthy, in my opinion.
McCarthy was the biggest con of all time, and good on him for getting his 30 million. But that is the biggest con of all time. I told Jerry Jones I changed and watched a bunch of stuff, and within a year, I admitted in an interview that I actually didn't.
No, within a week. Within a week, he said
ugly.
that. So it's
biggest con of all time. He inked that thing and laughed all the way to the bank.
Paxman for $10.
Pax, we hear you. You sent us a message on Patreon too. We understand. We will shift some of our off-season stuff to Sundays because hey, there's no football to watch on Sundays anymore, so we're not displacing anything. But we'll do some draft conversations on Sundays.
Yeah, absolutely. That is coming down the pipeline.
And also, if Malik Steelers, he's your QB1. Next year he might be. This year, you're gonna get some fun plays, but don't think about him like certainly not winning that division.
I want Malik to go somewhere where he's not going to start.
Yes,
like dare I say Detroit, because again they got Goff, and I don't think they're in a hurry to bench him.
And there have been arguments that they should do that and on potential. Again, if they believe that they can get him there, you gotta. If you have a guy like Goff, a guy like Malik is the only next logical step, right?
Yes.
You don't go get a slightly better Goff. Like Jimmy G would be a slightly better Goff, not by much, but he'd be a slightly better Goff. Why do you do that? That is a complete like trade this rock for this other rock, and they're the same. Whereas Malik is down here now. He's not going to play quarterback as well as Goff or Jimmy G right now. But 2 or 3 years from now, he could be up here. And that's the only reason you would make that kind of a trade out, is to say 2 or 3 years from now, we're going to have a guy that can win it on his own, as opposed to a guy that can never really win it on his own.
Yeah. Hunter King for $5. Thank you, Hunter. Happy 2 years. Love the content. Appreciate the Willis insight. Who's your favorite O-line guys? Interior, Zion Johnson and Linderbaum from Iowa for sure at center and guard respectively. Parham, as EJ mentioned, showed out at the Senior Bowl, did really well there. At tackle, I really like Charles Cross. I mean, honestly, all the guys at the top, Neal, Ekwonu.
Yeah, Icky, Neal, Cross, all really good. If you go farther down, I like guys like, I'm just going to call him NPF, which is Nicholas Petit-Frere from Ohio State, Max Mitchell from Louisiana. I like Cordell Volson, but down the board. A lot of people like Tyler Smith because he plays super mean. He's got really strong hands. Rasheed Walker is a guy that I like down the board at tackle. But we'll talk more about tackles later.
Yeah, there's a lot of good ones.
Yeah.
JJ for $5. Should the Steelers draft a quarterback in round 1? And if they were, who do you think would be the best pick? Ritter, Pickett, probably. I'm not fully confident in the answer yet because I haven't done enough work on them, but we'll probably be answering that question more definitively once we get more tape in, I would say. Unless you have
No, I don't disagree. Like Ritter would be, Ritter would be a real like push it type moment. Like, do you believe? Outside, and I'm just gonna say it because I love him, Matt Corral. Like I could see Matt Corral dealing within the first year to those wide receivers. Like again, you're going to need a bunch of offensive line help, so don't trade up to get him because you still need all your picks and then get heavy into offensive line because Corral's athletic enough that he could play behind a bad one, but why make him? Give him every chance. And again, it's going to be hard in Pittsburgh because you're following Ben. Like it's just huge shoes, and everybody's going to want the next solution to be like the last solution. And the chances are that it is or not good. So go get a guy. If he lasts 2 or 3 years, or you find out very quickly that he's not the guy, you pick another one. You just keep going until you find the next Ben. And it's going to be a while. Like Bens don't come along all that often.
Yeah. The only 2 franchises that have gone from back-to-back Hall of Fame talents are Green Bay and Indy. So it's like, and one of them ruined the second guy.
And San Francisco. San Francisco did it a while ago.
Yeah, but that was cheating. They traded. They got Steve Young out of the bargain bin.
Out of the USFL, yeah.
Optic for $10 Australian. Come to Australia. I will take you to all the footy games. Hell yeah.
Yeah. No, we would love that Optic. That would be amazing.
Give me some of that Australian Wagyu. Riker for $5. Thank you, Riker. Who's the next team to make a Bengals sequel run where they go from worst to first, or is that just something really rare? Well, they have Joe Burrow, so it's very rare because Joe Burrow is very rare.
Yeah, but teams do that every year, right? If you take all the teams that made the playoffs, like what is it? Solidly a third of them don't make the playoffs the next year. So there's a lot of churn because there's a ton of parity in the NFL. So teams flip divisions all the time, and we do the big divisional preview series every summer, and we say, oh, we think, and then things happen, right? We're like, oh, the wheels fall off, and you're just like, we both thought Carolina was going to be much more competitive this year than they were, and by week like 6, we were like, oh, no, it ain't gonna happen. Like it's just not gonna happen for them. It happens every year, so. Will it happen this year? Yes, something like that will happen. I don't know about Super Bowl, but like, will they make the playoffs? Where are you thinking right now, just kind of as a projection, like, it'll be a year or two, and they make the run this year? Happens every year. The chalk is in picking which team. If you're really good at that, you'd have a job in Vegas.
Even Bengals fans didn't anticipate this.
No, we said it in our preview episode of the Super Bowl. The Bengals are, I said a year ahead. You said at least 1, maybe 2, and that's true. They weren't supposed to be able to overcome the deficiencies in the offensive line, but they did, and that was largely Joe. So,
yeah. I don't know who's going to be that next team to do it because they always come out of nowhere in terms of going all like Jacksonville. Went to the fucking AFC Championship game out of nowhere, and then we're bad again immediately. So you never know. Teams just go on magic.
I could see Seattle doing it.
Yeah, why if Russ stays, of course.
Yeah, it definitely Russ has to stay. But
Autumn for $2. Last one, I'd be willing to get Dillard for a third. Well, you're a Bengals fan, so you'd be willing to take a traffic cone for a third-round pick at this point. You'll do whatever it takes.
I was going to say, oh, you would you? I'm amazed.
You just load a trash can with some sand and put him out there. I'll give you a fourth. And it's like, okay.
No, Dillard, honestly, I wouldn't hate it. I would take as many swings. I don't think Duke Tobin and his staff will do it, but I would take as many swings as I could. I would go the Kansas City model because a lot of people didn't hear this, but Joe took a knee injury in the Super Bowl. He wasn't coming out, but he took a knee injury in the Super Bowl, like second one in
MCL,
second year.
right? Yeah,
they're not really. They just said knee injury, but like nobody's really even going to pay attention because he'll start week 1 because he's tough as hell and he's going to do everything he can to get back. But he took another knee injury. Like you've already rolled the dice twice on that. You cannot do it anymore. You need to go overkill. There is not enough. It's the Lindsay Lohan gif of there is no limit, right? What do the Bengals need to do for offensive line? There is no limit. They need to do everything and then some because you can't keep getting him. One time he's not going to get up. Yeah. And that's going to be that. And then you're going to be real sad and you're going to say, oh, we didn't. He can't. He can't.
Mac Wake for $5. Say Veach goes all defense. Realistic targets for the top 400 picks. I feel like we need to double tap on edge. Well, if you're double tapping on edge, AK from Penn State for sure. Because as we mentioned in our podcast episode coming up pretty quick, he's very reminiscent of Justin Houston. So I think Chiefs fans would be very familiar with what he looks like as a pass rusher. Oh man, Jermaine Johnson probably won't be there that late. I doubt it in the first round. AK might have been. Cam Thomas, I think would be one you could look at. If you're looking for somebody with a little bit more like stand-up flexibility, then you're probably looking at like the Cincy kid. Pretty much just look at the Senior Bowl roster and throw a dart.
Yeah,
one of those edges.
And safety, like I think they would love to replace Dan Sorensen with something different. And there's a lot of really good, versatile safety options in this draft again that aren't necessarily constrained by corner safety, deep safety, line safety. Like there are guys that play all those roles, but there are several that do a wide variety. And KC's really good at using those guys. They've got one already. I could see some combination of safety star being, honestly, you could go edge, and then get a star and a true safety of one role or the other. And I wouldn't hate it because they like what they have at linebacker. They got a couple of young linebackers that are playing much better. Outside corner, sure, I can see it because they're probably going to lose one in free agency. But I could see like edge, safety, and I wouldn't hate it.
I think it's a solid plan. They don't need any help scoring. I'll just say that. Just go all the way in on defense.
And everybody's putting them on for a wide receiver too still, though.
Yeah, which again, I wouldn't hate that either.
It's the Chiefs' annual refrain.
Yeah.
Who's wide receiver 2?
Well, who else are they going to throw to? It's I don't know.
I know.
Pat will find a way. Yeah. I would still take a wide receiver 2, but I don't have any faith that they'll do it at this point. Only got a couple left, I promise. Colin for $5. Thoughts on the Ravens replacing Wink Martindale instead of Greg Roman? I think they really wanted Coach McDonald back from Michigan. And it was either McDonald goes to them or he goes to somebody who plays against them. And they really didn't want to deal with that. So they're like, fuck it. We'll bring in Coach Mack now. That was my read on the situation is Mack was going to get an NFL job. So do you want to pay him or do you want a team to pay him to beat you? He's a really good coach. Might as well be the one paying him.
Yeah. And Roman's future, I want the Ravens to do it a la what we've talked about with Minnesota, right? I think it's time for them if they're gonna make a run, especially like their division's not getting any easier. And it does work, but I think there's a ceiling and I think they know what it is. And I don't think it's a Super Bowl winning ceiling. They do. They believe in it very strongly and they believe in continuing it. I don't. I think they need to get more dynamic, especially in the passing game. Greg Roman's passing offense is not it. Like
I
they
want
need.
them to get a passing game coordinator. That's what I want.
I do, but I don't know that Roman would allow the call to go pass heavy, and they need to. Like, you can be the greatest running team in the NFL. You're not going to the Super Bowl. Like, you look at all 4 of the finalists this year to go to the Super Bowl, and they were all like bottom 10 in rushing.
Yeah.
Like, that's the fact. So the fact you've got this beautiful running offense,
like even Sean McVay, formerly run heavy offense, they were or in terms of early down pass rate, it was what, like 70% or something.
Yeah, no,
crazy
I really think Roman needs to slide into the background. He could, if he's willing to stay as the running game coordinator, great. Those 30% of plays where you're doing it, they'd look gorgeous and you'd gash people, and that would be awesome. But you can't have it be the other way around. You can't be run heavy and expect to compete the way it goes right now. You need to be able to compete explosively with the pass, and Roman's passing offense does not allow for that.
Jonathan Peck for $10. What middle linebacker and safety in free agency does Washington do? Oh, that's an interesting question. Those positions are the reason why defense regress. Cutting Landon Collins to save money to replace it. Well, yeah, the Landon deal, I would imagine they're probably going to cut Landon.
Yeah,
middle linebacker and safety in free agency. I would love Jesse Bates there. Depends if they want to shell out that much money. They could go Quandre Diggs. Who are the linebackers that are free agents right now?
Hang on.
Hitchens is one.
I want to be in here. Well, again, could be some cuts too. Like if Littleton got cut, I wouldn't hate it if they got him on a value deal. There's 2. I'll tease him here because there's enough other names on the list. Olakun.
He's a free agent?
Yep.
Really?
And he's super duper unrated. This is Foye Olakun from Atlanta.
Yeah.
And he is crazy underrated and is ready for a bigger role. And the other one is Kazir White.
I'm actually shocked that Atlanta even let him get to the market. He was a tackle machine.
I really hope the Bears low-key make a run at him to put him next to Roquan, because that would be killer. It would be so good. But no, Kazir White from the Chargers is another guy that's been real productive for multiple years in a row now. Doesn't have the highest profile. Neither of those guys have a really high profile, but they would be really good additions in Washington.
Let's see. Quan Alexander's a free agent. If you're looking for something. Oh, Ogletree's a free agent?
Well, that's what I'm saying is if you took Olakun and replaced Ogletree with him, like that to me would be like lovely. I would love that. Safety. Well, if they're going to go zone heavy, then Tart, who we talked about from San Francisco, would be a perfect fit. Jordan Whitehead would be my top choice.
Yeah, which again, he'll be 6-7 million maybe.
About that. Yeah, he's in the 70s for free agency rank, so 70th overall. He's not going to be commanding. And again, he's got a lot of guys in front of him, so they're going to be taking up the big money, but they're also going to have to fight for that, which means it's going to push his money down, and somebody's going to get a value. I would love to see Jordan Whitehead next to Eddie Jackson. Like if you got Olakun and Whitehead, that defense would be happy. And again, Olakun coming into the Indianapolis linebacking system, please, like, oh, yay.
Yeah, there's dudes available, and dudes that aren't gonna break the bank. I mean, you could break the bank.
If you want a freaking hitter from just across town, go get Deshaun Elliott.
Oh yeah. Be prepared for a couple yellow flags to come out, but that's the price of doing business with him.
Yeah.
He fucking smacks people.
Yeah, I was reading a free agency rating and preview, and they listed under weaknesses for Deshaun Elliott physicality. And I was like, are you talking about too much? Because if you're saying he's not very physical, you're not watching the tape. Like that guy is a bag of hammers.
Love your show, guys. I'm sort of new to the NFL. What is the position of H-back?
Ooh, kind of a cross between a fullback and a tight end, basically.
Yeah.
It's somebody that can do both, who can flex to an inline tight end, drop into the backfield, be a lead blocker for a running back. Yeah, that's H-back.
The best one in the league right now, and I would describe him this way, is Kyle Juszczyk from the Niners. Some people
Yep.
describe him as a fullback, but they line him up as an inline tight end. They line him up in the slot. They have him move around in the back. Like, he is the true definition of a modern H-back. Somebody who, it's a do-it-all position, basically. One of the harder positions to play because you have to do it all. That's why there's very few good ones in the league.
Yeah, college uses it a lot more. Like,
yes,
the Ole Miss tight end I love that went to the Jets. They used him as an H-back extensively. Dulcich does it a little bit at UCLA. They'll flex him into the backfield. They usually line him up in line, but college does it a lot more. You'll see guys. Josiah DeGuara that went to the Packers from Cincy. Like, he was that guy. He does it for them too. He flexes in line, goes back, is a lead blocker for Aaron Jones. Like, yeah. So college does it a little bit more. The Browns do it some in Stefanski's system, but they
want to do it more, but they
but they kind of like a truer fullback, I would say.
Yeah. Dre F for $2. Your thought on the Broncos' new look coaching staff? I mean, Hackett is he's coming
for offense. Yeah.
For offense, I really like that because he has a very long track record of offensive success at this point. He had a couple hiccups in his career, but you could argue that he also didn't have the best personnel to work with. But when he got to Green Bay, like, he was very much working in tandem with Matt LaFleur and Aaron Rodgers. He was a big contributor for that offensive success. He did some good work in college, but the hire that I really liked was Ejiro Evero, their DC. Yet another guy from the Fangio tree, who's been a very good position coach and defensive assistant for a long time. I was highlighting him as a potential target for Bears DC, and I think that there were multiple teams that were interested in him. Ultimately, he went to the Broncos, but I'm really excited to see what he does with that defense, kind of getting his first crack at being a coordinator, because I think he's been on a short list for me for at least 2 years now as a coordinator. But other than that, it's very much wait and see mode with Denver.
Yeah, and expect a little bit of regression, because when the student takes over for the master, it's just not going to be quite as polished as quickly. Doesn't mean he won't ascend to greater heights later, but like, Fangio's probably forgotten some things that he's about to learn. And Fangio operates that defense at an extremely high level, so expect it to drop off a little bit. I think that's just natural. Doesn't mean it'll be bad or worse forever. It just means early season you might go, oh man.
Yeah, keep in mind he worked under Fangio with that really good Niners defense that went to the Super Bowl like a decade ago, where they had like all the shit ton of all pro linebackers and everything like that. And then he worked on the Staley side with the Rams, and so he's
got
been
all
around.
The pieces.
He's been around.
He's got all the pieces.
He's been around. Let's see, Jake for $5. Considering where the Chiefs are sitting, who are they? First of all, thank you, Jake. Who are they taking? What position groups do they focus on in the draft and free agency? Just answered this a few minutes ago, but I'll reiterate: edge depth for sure, or just new edges, period, for sure. Outside corner, at least one safety. One of those like flex safeties that they like to use, where sometimes it's a slot defender, sometimes it's a post safety. It's got to be able to play all three facets of that position. You could say wide receiver too.
Yeah. And I'm going to pump our friends' work here. We know the guys over at KCSN really well, Kansas City Sports Network, and they release a Kansas City specific draft guide every year. Comes out in like a week, maybe even less. It'll be out really soon. I think it's $24.99, and it is 150 prospects just written up from the perspective of Kansas City. You don't find that very often in the draft world, where somebody goes that deep on one team and they have 4 guys contributing, all of them who have been following and covering the Chiefs for a good number of years. They understand the coaches, They understand scheme. They understand tendency. They understand what Brett Veach does. Like there's not a better resource out there in terms of it being focused on exactly what you want to know. So check it out if you're really interested.
Yeah, Kansas City Sportsnet. If you didn't catch that the first time, they do fantastic work. Aiden Lim, $5. What is your take on the Steelers quarterback situation, and who do you think will the best fit in their system? I think we just answered. Yeah, they need one.
They need one. It ain't Rudolph. And
Yeah.
other than that, it's it's Steelers' choice. I think Ritter would be fun for them. I could see a Carson Strong for them because it would be basically a similar mobility set to late career Ben with a better arm than late career Ben, not early career Ben, but his arm dropped off a lot. And Carson Strong's got a rifle for an arm. He's had leg injuries, so he's not super mobile. He's good in the pocket movement, but he's not a mobile quarterback that's going to take off. If they want to go more towards the athletic side, that's Ritter. He's a very good athlete. Or low key below that would be Matt Corral because he's smaller, which would be a big shift for them. They're used to having a very big, strong, tall quarterback. But Corral's a very good athlete, very mobile, and has a gun. You know what struck me this week? And I didn't say this to you, so it'll be new to you, but like all the people that were Zach fans last year, like rabid Zach fans who are like hating on Matt Corral.
They do a lot of the same shit.
I'm like, how do you love this? Like you were slobbering over this. You thought this was the best thing ever. And you look at this and you go, nah, I don't like that. I'm like, like 80% of it's real similar. Like Zach has a better arm.
Yeah.
But they're both about the same size. They both have some of the same strengths and struggles. And you look at one and go, that is the best. And you look at the other one and go, nah. You're like,
it's like, okay.
I'm confused about that.
My big thing for them is they just need a quarterback that can start as a rookie. They cannot take a project because they're going to have to start as a rookie. So it condenses the list a little bit for them. And then last one here, or no, we have two more. Second to last one here. Hen Dog for $5. Hypothetical Chiefs sign Allen Robinson and draft Jordan Davis in the first round. Who else should the Chiefs target in the draft and free agency?
Telling you, KCSN, go hammer them. We love those guys. They'll tell you all you need to know about draft targets, but edge targets for sure, safeties for sure.
I would say AK from Penn State's like top of the list, considering their draft range. Ebiketie, the edge rusher.
Arnold Ebiketie.
Yeah, that's the dude. Basically just Justin Houston all over again. And then last one before we get out of here, a 2-hour stream turned into a 3-hour stream. But hey, it's bootleg. That's what we do. Might as well
started on time.
I know.
Give us credit, man.
I know. Celebrating bootleg day the only way we know how, by going over.
That's right.
Jake Levens for $2. Thank you, Jake. Haven't seen that
Boodle
jersey yet. Oh, I forgot about the cap.
They never forget.
They never do.
They never forget.
I think I might have to get a custom one.
Yeah, DiCaprio Boodle. What? It's not on the sales rack? It's not on the, it's not on the bargain rack? Oh, maybe man. Not.
Jesus, but
okay. All right. Well, happy bootleg day to everybody. Thank you all for showing up. We're still over 250. We topped out on right around 300 continuous viewers. That's amazing for a Saturday sort of early pre-draft. Can't say enough how much we appreciate everybody from all over the world. We didn't do it today, but typically we ask people to put in the stream where they're from. We certainly had folks from Australia, from Ireland, all over the US. I'm sure we had some Brazilian folks watching, some German folks watching, Canada, folks in Asia. Like it's an amazing community. It's really cool when we get to come together, talk football. Love it.
Yeah. It's going to be a very, I think, interesting and productive draft season for all of us involved. Not just us, but you guys, the community. We got a lot more streams coming, a lot more episodes coming. One coming out, I believe, Monday morning, cool. Starting off the 10 gems for defense. So keep an eye out for that. And we'll see you guys very soon. Thank you for coming by. And until next time.